Hi, I'm Sophia.
And I'm Jen.
And you're listening to Every Rom Com, the podcast where we have fun taking romantic comedies seriously.
This week on Every Rom Com, we're revisiting Gen X icons Winona Ryder and Ethan Hawke.
We'll discuss the early days of reality TV, the struggle to figure out your life after college, and one of the best movie soundtracks ever assembled.
And we'll talk about how a screenplay written by a 20-year-old was turned into what might be the definitive Gen X rom-com, as we discuss the 1994 cult classic, Reality Bites. Hey, Sophia.
Hello, Jen. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great because it's spring.
Right.
So even though it's a little cloudier today and there might be snow again next week, when spring comes to the Midwest, even in fits and starts, it is a wonderful thing.
I agree. Like, it's just that warmth, some sun, not having to wear that big heavy coat. I hate the coat.
Yeah, and I'm going to be getting out my spring clothes later on today, too. I do the Project 333 from Courtney Carver, where you do like a minimalist fashion, thing.
Uh-huh.
And so you try to wear 33 items for 3 months. I don't think I've ever officially gotten to 33, but I've gotten really close. Wow. And I just like, changing out the clothes and putting the rest of them away and not having to look at them for a while. Mm-hmm. It's kind of exciting. It's almost like going shopping, but it doesn't cost money. So yeah, I'm going to unbox all my old clothes.
Yeah, for sure. Put away the winter stuff, the switcheroo, the seasonal switch. I like that too.
What about for the spring? Anything planned for the spring?
Okay, very exciting news. And I'm so glad my daughter is on board with this. She has joined Girls on the Run, and I'm going to be a coach. And I'm so excited. It's a nationwide organization, Girls on the Run, and it's for girls 3rd grade through 5th grade. And it's just getting them running. And I never would have done it in 3rd grade. And I still love the fact that like I was a slow kind of pudgy kid, picked last in all the, team lineups in grade school. And look at me now. I'm a coach.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I'm pumped. I love the message. You can do it.
And when are you going to start that training?
Golly, after my daughter's spring break, mid-April.
Cool.
And then at the end, they run a 5K. Which is great.
Awesome. That's really awesome, Sophia. I'm glad to hear about that.
Thank you. Yeah. Really pumped.
So we don't have like a natural transition for this, but today we're going to be talking about a movie about 20-somethings written by a 20-something. And a lot of the characters are recent college graduates. And I just wanted to talk to you about like your post-college experience. Like in the movie, they're all kind of struggling to find kind of meaningful work, figure out their relationships, like with their families, with each other. What was your post-college experience like, and does it feel similar at all to the experiences in Reality Bites?
No, not really. It doesn't feel like it. I think, in terms of like trying to find work, we were theater majors. So it was a different kind of trying to find work. It was like, well, are we going to go to try to audition places now? Or like we needed to find some kind of a job with this degree that just... Yeah, woohoo! So, and a couple friends were teachers as well, and they got teaching jobs right away, and that was great. But I remember this specifically being at one of my dear college friends' house, and talking about something about with her mother. I was like, I'm transitioning right now, and just trying to figure it out. She's like, "What do you kids talk about this transitioning? We didn't do that. Like they graduated and maybe got married and maybe got a job and just went on with life, and we were all like, what are we doing? And kind of moving back at home and taking the job of some sort that was really like kind of futureless or something. So that was it. How about you? What?
Yeah, like what you said was interesting to me because I think like there with the baby boomers, there was this sense of like there was just a set path. You weren't overthinking it too much. You were just like, well, I'm just going to do the thing that I do. Like, of course, I'm going to get this, 9-to-5 job, and I'm going to try to make money and get a house, and I'm going to get married, and like, this is just how we do it, right?
Yep.
And then in our generation, there was this like make your own course kind of feeling, like you can be whatever you want, like,
right.
But that at the same time, that brings up like so many endless possibilities, and I think fell victim to that a little bit. My post-college experience, like I didn't graduate from my first college because I had dropped out due to depression, and the depression was like partly pre-existing and partly caused by my mother's death while I was at college. And so I spent a few years, just taking like little kinds of jobs and like trying to figure out my life. And then eventually I moved to the West Coast, and moving to the West Coast, I think was a very late Gen X kind of thing to do too. And eventually found myself back in college again. But I feel like my whole life I've sort of been still trying to find what is that perfect, meaningful job. I'm not even sure if I've really left the place where they are in Reality Bites. It's just kind of starting over and over again.
I'm laughing because it's true. I'm with you as well. So, I did about a year after college, just kind of, I went to Brazil for a little bit, and then I was home and blah, blah, blah. And then I moved to New York. And spent 13 years there and lived. But what did I do? I got to work at the Drama Bookshop, which was so much fun, but paid nothing. And then I was an administrative assistant for about 10 of my 13 years in 2 different places. And my God, that was not what I wanted to do with my life. And then I did stuff on the side that was, fulfilling and what have you. But here I am now with a home, a daughter, a dog, and I'm still like, is this my job? Am I here? Am I here? Am I doing my thing? And I love my job, but it's just, like, is this the thing?
And I don't know. I feel like, I guess, like, probably our parents' generation, like, I know my mom definitely had moments where she was doing the same thing, where she's like, is this all, like, what am I going to do next? I don't know if it's, like, exclusively a generational thing by any means, but I think it was very prominent in Gen X, like, kind of a questioning of, like, the way things have been done before, and a questioning of materialism and capitalism and getting a job for the money and this terror of selling out. And and people in our generation, some of them have gotten over their terror of selling out. And I think part of me still has a little bit of that terror of selling out, even though it might be much better for me financially if I did.
Yeah, 100%. Some money and some insurance, health insurance are really good things. And fuck that selling out business. What a lie. I think it was such a lie. I'm not going to sell out. Well, okay, great.
Well, I don't think it is entirely a lie though. Like, cause there are aspects of selling out where like, you don't want to be contributing to like environmental harm or like, economic harm to other people. You want to be contributing something valuable, to the world. I mean, artistically selling out is a different matter. I think that's a little more,
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, it's not really going to hurt anyone if you make a silly pop album.
Right. Right. Okay. That's what we're talking about. All right. I'm on the same page with all
both kinds. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
For sure. Okay.
Well, anyway, we'll talk about Lelaina's struggle about whether or not to sell out as we're talking about Reality Bites today.
But before we get started with today's episode, just a few notes. First, we'll have a spoiler-free section at the beginning of the episode, and we'll warn you before spoilers begin.
We'd also like to remind you that you can follow the podcast on social media. Our Facebook page is Every Rom Com podcast and blog. Our Instagram is @Every Rom Com, and our Twitter handle is @EveryRomComPod.
And as always, you can find the podcast at everyromcom.com. Send us feedback at feedback@everyromcom.com. And if you like what you hear, please rate, review, and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts so you never miss an episode. And now, let's listen to part of the trailer of Reality Bites.
Hello, you've reached the winter of our discontent.
I'm making this documentary about my friends, but it's really about people who are trying to find their own identity without having any real role models or heroes or anything.
It seems like your friends would be perfect for that.
I truly believe that if we can get 2 women on the Supreme Court, we can get at least 1 on you, Sam.
I lost my job.
What
Why'd you get a job at Burgerama?
I was valedictorian of my university.
Well, you don't have to put that down on your application.
Do you have any idea what it means to be a cashier at Wienerschnitzel?
There you go, sir. And have a tune, Wiener dude.
A couple of smokes, a cup of coffee, and a little bit of conversation. You and me and $5.
You got it. He's strange, he's sloppy, he's a total nightmare for women. I can't believe I haven't slept with him yet.
Are you religious?
I guess I'm a non-practicing Jew.
Hey, I'm a non-practicing virgin.
Did he dazzle you with his extensive knowledge of mineral water?
He's not a yuppie.
What is your glitch, huh?
My glitch?
And why are you acting like a jealous boyfriend all of a sudden?
Hi.
You look beautiful. You look like
A doily.
Yeah. The rest of the trailer was just playing the knack over images, so I couldn't keep that.
So much fun.
So Reality Bites was released in 1994. It was directed by Ben Stiller and written by Helen Childress. And it stars Winona Ryder, Ethan Hawke, Janine Garofalo, Steve Zahn, and Ben Stiller, along with a few interesting cameos in there and smaller roles. Yeah.
So the story of the film is that it's about Lelaina and her friends, Troy, Vickie, and Sammy, and they've recently graduated from college, and each are dealing with work, relationships, and family issues. Lelaina's trying to make it as a film/TV director, and she spends her spare time working on a documentary about her friends' lives. When Lelaina meets Michael, a TV executive, she's offered a chance at love and career success, but is what he's offering what she really wants?
Dun, dun, dun.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a number of interesting facts about the movie. We're going to actually cover a lot of them, I think, in the body of the podcast this time. A lot of times we put a lot of them up front, but just a little teaser right now. So first of all, writer Helen Childress was a 20-year-old USC student when she was offered $75,000 to write a script about her generation based on conversations she'd had with producer Michael Schamberg. Like, these conversations were about her friends and their lives, and Michael Schamberg was kind of looking to do what is the Gen X story? Although at that time they were called the Baby Busters. So for a while it was called the Untitled Baby Busters Project. You know, Busters because there weren't many of us in the generation, whereas Baby Boomers, there were a ton of them.
Wow.
Anyway. Yeah. Can you imagine being offered that much money, like in college? Oh my God.
It's unbelievable. 20 years old. Hey. Yeah.
She'd made some kind of impressive student film, but still, it's like, wow.
Yeah. Totally wild.
So Childress said of the film, "It's embarrassing to watch now, to be honest with you, just because it feels like my diary is being read out loud." And here's an interesting thing. According to the screenwriter Helen Childress, the bites in Reality Bites was supposed to be a noun, not a verb.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she was thinking of it like sound bites, like little bites of reality. So instead of saying Reality Bites, you should be saying like Reality Bites.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah. I saw that in a making of, or like a reunion get together with everybody, and that's what she said. And I was like, oh my goodness, what a different take. And like, because definitely, I don't think anybody took it that way. Everyone's like, yep, reality does bite.
Yeah, it makes it a little more cheerful rather than sort of nihilistic almost.
Right.
Like, reality bites. But I can't say it that way. It's reality bites. Like,
Right.
I can't make that mental switch after like 20 years of thinking of it one way. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. So in terms of the casting, Winona Ryder was an early sign-on to the movie, and then she pushed for Ethan Hawke to be cast in the movie. She was impressed with his work in A Midnight Clear. And then in turn, Steve Zahn was cast when the producers saw him in a play with Ethan Hawke. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the main cast came about that way. And Lisa Loeb then, who wrote the song Stay, which was in the movie and became a huge hit, was Ethan Hawke's neighbor. And she also wrote music for Ethan Hawke's theater company.
Yep.
So Hawke passed along the song Stay to Ben Stiller. And that's the story of how that came about.
Yep. I love that.
And
I love that, like, Ethan Hawke and Steve Zahn were already like friends and working together, and Lisa Loeb and Ethan Hawke were friends, and just love that vibe.
Yeah.
You know?
And Janine Garofalo was already working with Ben Stiller
Yep.
on the Ben Stiller show too. So
Yep.
yeah, it was a little company of friends basically.
Yeah.
And the original title of the script, they had to get rid of it, was The Real World. Because when they were in pre-production, the first season of The Real World was announced.
Wow.
That's an interesting coincidence. And the movie was made for $11.5 million, but ended up grossing $33 million, which is, you know, kind of modest, but at the same time, it profited well. So There you go. Okay, so this movie, let's talk about when we first saw it and what we thought of it and what we think of it now.
Did you see it in the theater?
Oh, I doubt it. But I remember instantly loving this movie, though. I remember just like really connecting with it right away. I don't know if that was your experience.
I think so. I watched it so much that since rewatching it for the podcast, it was almost hard to watch because I was like the voice inflections and everything. I knew it all, and I was like, oh yeah, okay. So anyway, I saw it a lot.
So you had seen it, so you remembered it so well that it was almost like redundant watching it or something, or like
in the beginning. I can talk more about that later too, and like why.
And has this been over the years too? Have you rewatched it over the years, or was this just from watching it when you were younger?
I think from when I was younger. I honestly don't remember the last time I sat down and watched it, so it was a long time ago.
This is surprising to me for an Ethan Hawke fan such as yourself, but
I tell you, it lasted between this and before Sunrise. So whenever his face pops up, I'm like, Ethan, what's he up to? That's silly. But I feel that way about Winona, honestly, and kind of all the cast from this film. Steve Zahn, I love. I've not watched everything he's done because it's because of the content. It's like, that's going to depress me, or that looks scary, or I don't know what. But I think he's brilliant. So when I see his face, and I think, I'm like, good for you, Steve. Still working. Like, I just
No, he's doing a lot these days. Yeah,
he's awesome. I think he's great.
Yeah, I also too feel kind of this like kinship with these characters in this movie in a funny way, like that I don't with all actors. Like when I see them in things, I'm like, oh yeah, good for you. Like I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. And like how does the movie like strike you now? Does it still speak to you? Like has it lost any of its luster, or does it remain a favorite? What do you think?
So much of it is of the time. Like I remember quoting so much of it, and just how they referenced so many retro things, you know, their phraseology. I don't know, just like, I'm cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. I get that, not so fresh. Like I thought that was so funny at the time. Now I'm like, okay, I thought it was stupid this time. I don't know.
So all the pop culture references, like they don't play well for you anymore.
No, they don't. So I would say the first several minutes were hard, but then like later on, I kind of forgot. I don't know if they stopped doing it so much, but
No, they do it through the whole movie.
I guess I just started to only care about the little love triangle and like got into that again.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's a very cleverly put together movie. I don't mind the pop culture references because I remember like we would speak that way too. We would talk about commercials all the time when we were growing up because everybody watched the same television stations and the same commercials. And there was still that kind of unifying culture, like where everybody would get each other's references, right? Mm-hmm. Which isn't so much the case anymore. Mm-hmm. Like people all watch different prestige TV shows and different reality shows and have different streaming services. Mm-hmm. But back then with your big three networks, everybody was on the same page. So, I'm nostalgic for that, I guess, that shared culture, even if it is this kind of trashy commercial culture. And then the movie still, I think, is very well made. It goes by very quickly. Mm-hmm. Like you're just on a ride with it. Mm-hmm. But I don't feel it's as deep as I used to think it was. When I was like that age, like when I was also like a teenager in my 20s, it felt very deep to me and meaningful. Mm-hmm. And now it feels a little bit like more on the surface. And the relationships seem a little bit less, you know, soulmate relationships necessarily. Like maybe they're soulmates and we'll talk about that later, but like maybe this is, you know, with perspective of being in relationships for decades now, maybe it doesn't seem quite as good anymore.
Right.
Anyway. So yeah, I still like it and I would rewatch it again, but it's not like something I'm going to rewatch all the time by any means.
Right.
Yeah, it had its time for me.
Yep.
Yeah. So I guess we'll talk now a little bit about the cast and crew.
We have covered quite a few of the cast of Reality Bites in previous episodes. So for more information on Winona Ryder, who plays Lelaina, check out episode 30 on Heathers, also in our Gen X rom-com series. For more information on Ethan Hawke, who plays Troy, check out episode 16 on Before Sunset. And for more information on Janeane Garofalo, check out episode 20 on Wet Hot American Summer.
Yeah, I was so excited when we were covering this movie because I'm like, we totally covered these people before. Yeah. We'll have time to cover some other people. Yeah. So one of the other people we're going to cover is Ben Stiller. He's the director of the movie and he plays Michael Grates. And he's the son of Jerry Stiller and Ann Mira. And they were a famous comedy team in the 60s and 70s. And you probably recognize them if you see them. Jerry Stiller, for example, played George Costanza's dad on Seinfeld. Serenity Now. And Ann Mira actually has appeared in a lot of things, including she played Steve's mom on Sex and the City. And she's also in this movie. She plays the journalist who asks Lelaina to define irony at a job interview. So that was pretty cool. Mm-hmm. Ben Stiller obviously had this Hollywood background, but he also began shooting Super 8 films at age 10, on his own. And so he had early ambitions, I think, to direct. Before Reality Bites, he had acted in theater, TV, and film, and he directed for Saturday Night Live and MTV. He created The Ben Stiller Show, which ran on MTV from 1990 to 1991 and on Fox from 1992 to 1993. And it was kind of like a skit comedy show. Mm-hmm. And I only watched a couple episodes. I didn't have time to watch much more. But it was a lot of pop culture, riffs and things too on that. He actually impersonates Bono in one of the early episodes. And the other cast members on that show too. It's wild. It's him, Janeane Garofalo, Andy Dick, and then Bob Odenkirk, from Better Call Saul. So pretty cool. I didn't really love the skit comedy show, to be honest, and I didn't watch it at the time. And I guess it got canceled pretty soon. But you do see a little bit of Ben Stiller's early sensibility in terms of his comedy. And Reality Bites, though, was his feature directing debut. Then after Reality Bites, he directed and acted in The Cable Guy, 1996, co-wrote, directed, and starred in Zoolander in 2001, co-wrote, directed, and starred in Tropic Thunder in 2008, and directed and starred in The Secret Life of Walter Mitty in 2013. He also co-wrote, directed, and starred in Zoolander 2 in 2016. So a lot of those movies that people just love. And then most recently, Ben Stiller directed the TV show Severance in 2022. And he's currently working on a political movie called Bagman about the Nixon administration. So I think a lot of people don't really realize that Ben Stiller is a director. I think more casual movie fans might know him just as an actor. Mm-hmm. He's acted in things including Flirting with Disaster, Zero Effect, There's Something About Mary, Mystery Men, Keeping the Faith, Meet the Parents and all of its sequels, The Royal Tenenbaums, Along Came Polly, Dodgeball, and he's done voice work in Madagascar and its sequels. And then, of course, there's the Night at the Museum franchise, While We're Young, the Meyerowitz stories, Brad Status, and just a ton more. So he's just very well known as an actor too. And he also works as a producer. Yep. And when I looked at his producer page, not the other pages, but on his producer page, there is an announcement for Dodgeball 2, which I would watch. So do you have any favorite Stiller films that he's directed or acted in?
I think Tropic Thunder was really great. I saw the first Meet the Parents. That was good. I love Royal Tenenbaums, and he's good in it. What about you?
I want to put in a plug for Zero Effect, which not a lot of people have seen, and it's also got Bill Pullman in it. Ooh. And their acting chemistry is great. It's kind of a weird modernization of Sherlock Holmes kind of thing, but it's not Sherlock Holmes. Okay. So it's I think more innovative than some of the remakes of Sherlock Holmes have been. And there's also a love story in that. I can't remember the actress's name who appears in it, but she's also a great actress who works a lot. Check out Zero Effect. It's a small little film.
Cool.
And I like, I like Dodgeball and Tropic Thunder as well. Like his funny stuff. Yeah.
Next, we have the writer Helen Childress. Despite having written such a successful film, Childress has very few produced screenplays. An excerpt from an interview in The Atlantic, she says, "I've worked consistently and constantly for 29 years," she declared, estimating her total output at about 40 screenplays. Most were paid assignments for studios, with more than half reaching a level where directors or talent were attached. Of the handful that Childress wrote on spec, half were sold or optioned. Most of them feature female protagonists. In all sincerity, I think that was the problem. That's her quote. Man,
Yeah.
that's like good for her that she kept getting work, but like also bummer to get so close.
Can you imagine writing 40 whole screenplays and none of them get made into movies? Can you imagine that?
That's why it's wow. Only recently has she added to her IMDb credits. In 2016, her first IMDb credit since Reality Bites is a TV series called Model Woman. In 2019, there's a credit for Escaping the Madhouse, the Nellie Bly story. It was a TV movie. And other credits, she's got 2 episodes of The Spanish Princess, 5 episodes of Good Girls, and is announced as the writer for a family drama called Crenshaw. And she's also plays the waitress in a scene in Reality Bites where Lelaina and Michael are on a date.
So now I'm going to talk about somebody that we both really enjoy watching, the actor Steve Zahn, who plays Sammy. According to Uproxx, Steve Zahn had been active in the New York theater scene before making Reality Bites. He had a few small film and TV roles also before Reality Bites, but Reality Bites was kind of a big break for him. Mm-hmm. And other notable work from Steve Zahn after Reality Bites includes That Thing You Do, Out of Sight, Joyride, Riding in Cars with Boys, Sahara, Management, the TV show Treme, which is really good, which ran from 2010 to 2013. I guess he was in Tall Girl, the Netflix movie. I didn't really care for that one, but he's also in Tall Girl 2. Mm-hmm. He appears in Uncle Frank, and he was in the recent TV show The White Lotus from 2021. He was excellent in that one. Mm-hmm. He was also in 8-Bit Christmas. And he's got a lot of stuff on the way as well. He's completed a film called Gringa, and he's in post-production on movies Your Place or Mine with Reese Witherspoon and an animated film called Robo-Dog. And I think Your Place or Mine is actually a rom-com, and I think it might be him and Reese Witherspoon in the romance. So that would be really cool.
Oh my gosh, love it.
Have you seen The White Lotus yet?
No.
I think you'd enjoy his performance in that. Like, I mean, there are depressing aspects to that show, but there are also hilarious aspects to that show. And it's also got Jennifer Coolidge. So,
I love her. She's an icon. Cool.
Okay, so that's our cast. As we've mentioned, a lot of them, like we said, we've talked about them on previous episodes. I hope you'll check some of those episodes out. If you just want to hear the segments about the cast and crew, remember to check our show notes. And our show notes will tell you what timestamp to start listening for to be able to hear just about the cast and crew. All right. So I want to go ahead and go on record as saying that like Reality Bites for me is probably just the ultimate Gen X movie, period. Mm-hmm. Like I was thinking that, and then I also asked myself, okay, well, if you had to like show somebody from the future, like what the Gen X era was like and just show them one movie, what would you show them? And I'm tempted by some other things. Like I'm tempted by like Slacker or Pulp Fiction or Singles. But I feel like Reality Bites, in a way, because it intentionally tried to be about the generation, ends up encapsulating so much of it in one movie. What do you think?
Well, of the few that you just mentioned, I'm going to have to agree with you. Yeah, it was like, I don't think Pulp Fiction, because it feels like a, specific genre versus about like what people were living and doing, like maybe quote unquote real average people or whatever.
Yeah.
I think Singles would come a close second, to be honest. But Reality Bites. I'm with you.
Yeah. Slackers, I feel, too location specific and would make you think that there were many more middle-aged conspiracy theorists walking around than perhaps there were. Or perhaps there are that many middle-aged conspiracy theorists walking around. I don't know. But yeah, Reality Bites is just such a Gen X movie. And Frank Rich of the New York Times had a quote about the movie from that time. Said, "This is the movie that has been both praised as the last word on Xers and damned as Hollywood's slickest effort yet to exploit them."
Interesting.
Yeah. I did not feel that it was exploitive when it came out myself. I felt like, no, these are people around my age making something that speaks to me.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that it's written by a 20-year-old, that bears it out to me a little too.
Yeah. I was watching, again, a reunion. I think you can, I found it on YouTube.
Is it the Tribeca Film Festival reunion? Yeah. I can put a link to that in the show notes.
Yeah, do, because it was great. And they talked about how it has like an indie feel, but it was backed by a major studio. So they kind of like, even then when they went to Sundance with it, it was like, wait a minute, you're not independent. But I feel like it has an indie vibe.
Yeah.
And I think things like that have changed too, that like, hey man, you sold out, you got the big anyhow, that's what it made me think of. I don't think it was exploited either.
So so I just think this was like such a good representation of the generation. And like you still see, if you look up Gen X films on Google, like Reality Bites like shows up on every list, right? Mm-hmm. And the BBC even used it as like their banner picture, the four of them on the roof, for the films that define Gen X, right? So I wrote in our blog, Every Rom Com podcast and blog, I wrote a blog article called "What Makes a Gen X Rom-Com?" And like every category, I kept like referencing something from Reality Bites, and I'm like, okay, this is the one. This is the essence right here. So feel free to check that blog article out too and see if you agree. So what are some of the things we're not going to go over all of them, but some of the things that make this a Gen X film? I mean, Winona Ryder right there. She was already the icon from Heathers and from other projects. Ethan Hawke and Janeane Garofalo, I think, more became Gen X icons thanks to the film because they weren't really at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Some other things that make it a Gen X film. So we already talked about the pop culture references in the movie, and I don't know if younger generations would get all of them, but they're constantly just quoting ad slogans. Mm-hmm. They're singing songs from the show Schoolhouse Rock. They reference Melrose Place. They reference all kinds of like pop culture in this movie. And that is such a Gen X hallmark that we've seen in the works of Quentin Tarantino that we talked about in the True Romance episode. Yeah. And then we're going to talk about with Kevin Smith in the Chasing Amy episode that's coming up. We'll also talk about more later. There's also a lot of Gen X fashion in this movie. I mean, it's kind of like which came first. Like, did this movie capture what people were already wearing, or did this movie cause us to wear things?
Yeah,
that's probably a good question. And there's also in the movie, there's not just like the contemporary 90s fashion, but there's like Vickie, Janeane Garofalo's character, is exemplifying vintage 70s fashion. Yep. So that's really awesome. But one of the main things that makes this like such a definitive Gen X film, and like in terms of like is the filming style. And this movie alternates between like just watching a normal movie where you're just watching characters and scenes doing things. And then a lot of the scenes are told through Lelaina's documentary camera. And they were actually shot on video too.
Awesome.
And they're edited together in a way that's very seamless, honestly.
Yeah.
Like it works really well. Like Ben Stiller's direction there. I mean, I'm sure a lot of it was in the script, but the way Ben Stiller weaves it together is really great.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was a relatively new kind of thing to see in movies, to see this kind of like camcorder documenting reality, quote unquote. Mm-hmm. And like you'd see it later in 99 with like the Blair Witch Project making a whole horror movie like that.
Yeah.
This is kind of the start of those types of innovations and right at the birth of reality TV, which we will also talk about later in the podcast. Okay, so let's now get into the movie. So we open the movie with a graduation ceremony, but before we see the graduation ceremony, the screen is like this blank blue TV screen with Lelaina's voiceover on it. And it's like the way your TV used to look when you'd switch modes between the TV and the VCR, and then you press play and it says VCR play on it. So this is like a very 90s kid reference because we're one of the generations that grew up with we're like the generation that grew up with a VCR.
Yep.
So this might be lost on people now. I mean, you can still sometimes get a similar thing, I guess, if you switch modes for your Blu-ray player, but it's not the same. So yeah. And this is just showing you right away, like, this is a movie that's going to alternate between video and film. Yeah, this movie has a pretense of being in reality.
Yeah, like
that, like, this is all, you're just watching somebody's authentic tapes. This is really Lelaina's documentary, while it's also a movie. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
And then Lelaina, the voiceover we get then is Lelaina's graduation commencement speech. And Sophia, please do the honors.
Oh, okay. And they wonder why those of us in our 20s refuse to work an 80-hour week just so we can afford to buy their BMWs. Why we aren't interested in the counterculture that they've invented, as if we did not see them disembowel their revolution for a pair of running shoes. But the question remains, what are we going to do now? How can we repair all the damage we've inherited? Fellow graduates, the answer is simple. The answer is, I don't know. It's where she loses her place in her cards. I wonder what the answer was.
I actually think she was pretending to lose her place. Don't you think that was purposeful? I've always read that as a purposeful thing, that she didn't actually like have the answer, and that was like a gimmick.
No,
I've always thought that she really lost her place.
She lost like her card, and yeah.
I need to find out what the intention is, that because like 100%, I have never thought that she lost her card, like, ever. I've always interpreted this as, this is Lelaina's clever like gimmick to show that this is where her generation is at, like, because she's so, I feel like she's the kind of person who could speak off the cuff if she chose to. I don't feel like
she's
would.
Kind of perfect and would never fuck up her valedictorian speech.
Yeah. So do you still think that? Do you still think she lost her card, though?
Yeah.
With that in mind?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Because the way she's breathing heavily and looking around like, oh no, like her reaction. And then like
acting. She's selling it. No. She's selling it.
Wow.
I think she's...
Find out.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll look it up.
I want to hear what the listeners think, though. Listeners, yes. Please like contact us via feedback at everyromcom.com and tell us what you think. Or you can also tell us on Twitter. I might even put up a Twitter thread about it to see what you think. So
I want to know.
Yeah, please tell us what you think. Anyway, so let's look at the rest of this speech, though. Are there things you relate to in her speech? Are there things that like you identify with?
Oh, I'm still waiting for that 80-hour work week crap to go away. I don't know. Like everybody, at least in my years in Brooklyn, I was in my, mid 20s to mid 30s, and all of my friends in that same age, even if they got jobs in the fields that they were interested in, they sucked the life out of them. It was work. And it was like, what the hell? I can't do this anymore. So people would like quit the jobs that they were dreaming of because it just sucked their life away. It was no like 40-hour work week. It was longer than that and more hours. And, damned if the pay didn't reflect all the work either. It was like, then pay me more.
Yeah, and it's like the worst thing is like the 80-hour work week doesn't even pay for a BMW these days.
No.
Like there are plenty of people working an 80-hour work week just so they can pay rent. So
yes,
I mean we're in a if anything, I think we're in a worse situation right now than the one Lelaina is describing.
Mm-hmm. I would agree.
I remember feeling like you had a choice to reject luxury items back then, right? Like you could decide like, well, I'm going to do good work. Like I don't need all that stuff. But now it's like. Like less about rejecting luxury items and more about like you're rejecting subsistence almost if you don't take some jobs that you don't want or work more hours than you would like to. And that frankly sucks. Another thing that's interesting to me though is this movie, it's like it has like kind of an anti-consumerist pose and an anti-capitalist pose here and there, but they never really talk about the environment, which is the main thing I think about when I read the sentence, how can we repair all the damage we inherited? But they never really talk about the environment. Do you remember any references in this movie to the environment?
None. No.
Yeah, I'm trying to think like, if maybe that wasn't front on people's minds at the time. I guess that didn't really come in until Al Gore was bringing up climate change more prominently. But like, yeah, I don't know. I feel like, but Earth Day had already been invented, right? So like, I felt like I had awareness of the environment then. And, you know, Exxon Valdez was already talked about in Singles. So, yeah.
I feel like
what's your excuse, Reality Bites?
I think they were concerned about like AIDS. Do you know what I mean? Like that kind of social justice piece, you know?
But
and
it didn't feel like it was like in a social justice way. It feels very personal in the movie more than like a social justice piece.
Right,
to me.
but maybe like a greater, well, like what Vickie says, you know, the rite of passage for our generation. Does that make sense? Where it's like very personal, but also like, this is what my generation is dealing with. And Sammy coming out and that kind of stuff. Like, but it's not like something like we need more funding for AIDS research or all these gay men are dying of AIDS, like ACT UP or something. It's more like, how is this affecting us? You know what I mean? I get it.
So it's like this very political statement sort of in the graduation speech about repairing the damage that we inherited. But I don't really see that play out in a political way in the movie, I guess I could say. Do you want to say any more about the speech in general or like?
No, the speech never resonated with me. Even now, I guess the only thing that really resonated was like working a whole lot for not much to show for it. But that's it. That's all I have to say.
Really resonates with me that how can we repair all the damage we inherited? And then I don't know. Mm-hmm. Like that resonates with me because I still feel like as Generation X, we inherited a lot of environmental damage. We inherited a political system that's dominated by money. Mm-hmm. How can we do something about this? I feel like after trying different methods, I feel like I don't know. Like I feel very more lost than I did 20 years ago, to be honest.
25 years ago? Yeah, for sure. Because, right, they're asking this question 25 years ago, and I'm asking it now, and I'm like, what the hell? Like, this isn't a new question. This isn't a new issue. Why isn't it, like, anywhere near resolved now?
Yeah, I've protested, I've donated and worked for politicians. I guess I haven't tried everything. I guess I haven't put my actual body on the line in terms of, like, really endangering myself or doing, like, I don't know, wild forms of protest, but like I'm honestly not sure that would work any better in the climate we live in the country we live in. So I don't know. And I think Gen X, like some of the other hosts I've talked to, and I don't know if I included it in the shows, have kind of said that Gen X kind of seems like a do nothing generation to them. But I will say in our defense that our voting block is very small. Like on either side, we have much larger voting blocks that have kind of dominated politics. Mm-hmm. So it can be a little hard, like trying to make a big difference.
Interesting.
So now we're on the rooftop after graduation and we get kind of each of their opening statements. And so first we get Lelaina, who does a pop culture reference right away. I'm not a valedictorian, but I play one on TV, which of course is referencing those kinds of commercials that said, I'm not a doctor, but I play one on TV.
Got it. I'd forgotten.
Oh, you had forgotten.
I had forgotten.
Well, there's no hope for today's audiences then.
I forgot what that. Well, I love Vickie's line. May I? Can I do this?
Yeah.
My favorite part about graduating now will be dodging my student loan officer for the rest of my life. He will be in cahoots with the Columbia Record and Tape Company guy. Been after my ass for years. It's really funny. Or
there's a Gen X experience. That's a Gen X experience.
The Columbia Record. Yes, I did that for a while.
How many times did you join and then have your parents call them and be like, this person can't actually do this?
I think I did it in college. It was like with
some
really?
CDs.
You didn't do it? Yeah.
You didn't do it in high school?
No.
I think I joined it like 2 or 3 different times in between middle school and high school. And each time I was unable to keep paying for the things. And each time my parents had to call and be like, hey, you can't actually like let her do this. And then they kept like still signing me up again. I had so many free tapes as a result of that. Seriously.
That's hilarious.
Because like my parents would be like, she can't be legally responsible for this.
That's funny.
Oh my God. It's kind of shitty of me when I think back on it. But like, I think each time I started with the actual intention that I was going to actually send the tapes back, but it just never had the, wherewithal to get it done. Mm-hmm. Oh, and for our younger listeners, so what would happen is Columbia Records and Tape, like you could get like 10 tapes or something for 1 cent. And then you'd be signed up for this thing where they'd send you like a tape or 2 a month. And then if you didn't send them back, you had to pay for them, with the idea that you would forget to send them back and end up having to pay for them. But like there was like some kind of catch where like if you were under 18, I don't think they could legally do that in some states. So people under 18 were getting all these tapes for years, but older people would end up owing all this money for these tapes they didn't even want. So that was the whole, I guess it must have made them money for a while.
That's funny. I also appreciate her line in regards to the Social Security number. It's the only thing I really learned in college. That always cracked me up. Still does.
Yeah. Yeah, this whole rooftop scene is just kind of like intercut, like little quips from each person that kind of let you get to know them as who they are. And Troy, one of his things is you find out that he actually didn't graduate. He's like very close to graduating. His contribution, he throws away a tassel that Lelaina gives him as a souvenir and says, well, I'm through with the whole wankorama. He's just not with it. He doesn't want to do the same thing as everybody else. He's against the man, I guess. I don't know. Troy also is kind of camera shy, and he calls attention to the fact that Lelaina is filming and wants her to turn it off. But that's also how we find out that she's making a documentary. Yeah. And then we've also got Sammy. And I like Sammy's goal, played by Steve Zahn. My goal is I'd like a career or something.
I feel like that's super true and real. Goal, I'd like a career or something.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And so in this opening sequence, there are so many pop culture references. I don't even have them all down. Yeah. But like Troy at one point says, I'd like to buy the world a Coke, an ad slogan. Vickie says, sometimes I get that not so fresh feeling. A douche commercial. Mm-hmm. And the whole scene ends with them singing Conjunction Junction from Schoolhouse Rock, which I feel like I was a little too young to watch Schoolhouse Rock. Did you ever watch that show?
Never, no.
Yeah, I think that was the people just above us, like just a few years older than us, that Schoolhouse Rock was the thing they watched. It was like a cartoon, and they would have songs that were like educational and stuff.
Got it.
Because they do two different songs from Schoolhouse Rock in the movie. They do Conjunction Junction, what's your function? And then they also do later, I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill. And I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill.
Oh, funny.
Yeah. Anyway.
And then now that they've had their fun, it's time to have dinner with the parents. And it's an awkward dinner. It's Lelaina and her dad with his wife and her mom with her husband. And Troy is there.
Yeah. Yeah, which was interesting. It's like he's her date, but they're not dating.
Right.
Yeah. But it shows you how important he must be if he's the one who goes to the dinner with the parents, I think,
Right. She refers to him as my best friend. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Lelaina's dad says now that, his new wife has her new Infiniti, you can have her old BMW, and he hands Lelaina the keys to this BMW. That causes a big rift between the mom and dad. And he also gives her a gas card, and he's like, I'll pay for that for the whole year. Which actually, that's a really great gift.
I know, right? Like somebody gives you a car and gas, like for a whole year. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Why would there be any question of not accepting that?
I know, thanks. But, she makes a big point. We don't want your BMWs. And he's like, I'm not going to listen to some silly old speech and blah, 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 which really is really dismissive. Anyway.
I don't know. I'm with the dad on this one personally.
But you see how Lelaina is like the peacekeeper. She's like, okay, listen, I'll take it. Okay. Until I can afford my own car. And, really tries to keep the peace between her fighting parents.
Yeah.
Good old Lelaina.
The important thing to remember about the scene, though, is basically just that Lelaina receives a gas card from her dad that he's going to pay for a year. So this becomes an important factor in the film. Now we're still kind of moving on to this montage, and it feels like this movie opens like 4 different times. Like you've got the graduation speech, you've got the rooftop segment, then you've got the dinner with the parents. But this morning montage feels like the movie's opening all over again, doesn't it?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it's like we're going to introduce these characters in various ways, but it doesn't feel weird. It feels like natural, like at the same time. Maybe it's because the soundtrack's so good. It just kind of like moves you through it. And you kind of just see Lelaina doing her morning. She's improvising a coffee filter out of like some toilet paper or something. She's obviously on her way to work. And then you see Troy like leaving a house after like what appears to be a one-night stand. And the person he's leaving is Renee Zellweger in one of her first film roles. We see her all too briefly kissing Troy goodbye. And then Troy ditches her number right on the ground in front of her house. So
Yeah.
she's going to find that later. I didn't notice that part until somebody pointed it out in an article. I'm like, oh my God, she is going to see that later.
Yeah.
That's so sad.
Yeah, he's the jerk. Troy's not too thoughtful.
Yeah, he can't even like take it home. Well, I guess for the purpose of the film, we have to see him ditch the number, right? Like right there. But like it ends up being kind of really crappy. Anyway. And then we also see another guy leaving a girl's room after a night of sex, presumably. And that room is Vickie's room. And Vickie's room is just a beautiful vintage creation, just all kinds of 1970s and early 80s decor lining the walls. Saturday Night Fever poster, records on the wall, her Charlie's Angels lunchbox. I love that room so much.
Yeah. Pretty awesome.
And we also then see she has a book of people she's had sex with and she's filling it in. And the one she's filling in that day is 66, September 26, Rick. But then she adds a question mark after Rick.
Because she can't remember. And I like how she's like faking that she's sleeping. Like she really doesn't care if he runs out.
Yeah, it really gives you a sense of like Vickie's life though, between her room and this little book and like how she's keeping it like that.
Finally, the pan to Troy at his job at a newsstand, and he's just sitting there and he reaches over and takes a Snickers bar and starts to eat it, which comes back later.
So then we go to Lelaina's job, which is at a TV show called Good Morning Grant. And the host is played by John Mahoney. We've seen him before in Moonstruck, playing the person who's courting Olympia Dukakis' character. And he's also in Say Anything. He appeared in Frasier. So he's a really fabulous actor. But his character in this movie is very unlikable. He's playing like this corny, aw shucks host of this morning TV show. But then in real life, he turns out to be like a total jerk to Lelaina. We also find out in this scene that he basically needs everything done for him. He needs everything set up. He needs notes about what he's going to say. He needs his coffee prepared and put next to him. Like, very demanding boss. And kind of helpless in some way, too. Which we will see play out later. Okay, so we move on. There are a lot of scenes we're skipping, but we move on to a scene where Lelaina meets Michael, played by Ben Stiller. So I love the opening to the scene where Vickie and Lelaina are singing Tempted by Squeeze in the car. How about you?
Oh yeah, I love that song. And did you know Squeeze before this film?
No, did not.
Okay, I did. And I feel really special about that because I have a cousin who's 8 years older than me. And so she knew music and she had this Squeeze album that then my sister had and I totally have. And like we all have this album. So that song Tempted, I knew. And I was like, I know it. I feel so cool. I knew a retro thing. And it's a great song. And yeah, I like it. They're sitting there. So much smoking in this film.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, everybody's smoking in this movie. Well, not everybody, but
a lot.
And yeah, and it is important that Lelaina's smoking at this moment. Yeah.
Right.
Because Michael then pulls up next to them at a light in his convertible, and he's listening to like some hardcore sounding hip hop. I found out the song is called Murder, and it's by a group called KMC. And this is one of the first instances I remember of making fun of like the kind of white guy with the, rap, like hardcore rap music playing.
Yeah.
That's a reference you saw a lot in like the 90s, like something like Office Space too. But like, that's the first I think I remember seeing that joke. And he's also on a car phone while he's like struggling with a map. So Michael's got a lot going on in that car. And Lelaina and Vickie look at him and they are just laughing at him.
Yeah. And then Lelaina tosses her cigarette out the window and it goes into his car on one of the CD cases and starts like smoking, and Michael freaks out and then he crashes into Lelaina's car and his airbag goes off, and like at first they're shocked and then they keep laughing at him.
Yeah. I was like, I don't know if that's the time to laugh or not, right? Really. I don't know. But I mean, it's kind of a meet cute. This is like your rom-com meet cute, basically. So they go to Michael's office at this thing called In Your Face TV, which is like supposed to be like a riff on MTV, basically. They do mention MTV though in the movie. They're like, it's like MTV, but hipper.
Or with an edge or something. Yeah.
Yeah, with an edge, something like that. And the idea is that Michael's going to like, talk to his lawyer and like they might have to like sue her or something like that. But during their little conversation, Michael like and her start kind of flirting, not necessarily flirting, but they're getting along well.
Mm-hmm.
And then Michael seems like he's just going to give it up because she's a cute girl, basically, in the end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She also mentions how much money she makes a week. And she's like saying, she says it like it's only. She's like, I only make $400 a week. Okay. And I ran this through an online calculator and it says that that's around $750 to $760 a week in 2022 money, or about $3,000 a month. And I have to say, I don't make $3,000 a month right now. Okay. So like, I mean,
it's not bad money. What are you talking about?
Yeah. that is not bad. That does not sound like a sad sack situation. Like in today's economy, I wouldn't say, which is sad actually. Oh, and also in this scene, we see Michael has like this little Dr. Zaius like statue, which is from Planet of the Apes. So we have another like pop culture vintage reference. And Lelaina ends up knocking over poor Dr. Zaius in this scene, but Michael still asks her out for a date.
Yep. She gets his card, and I thought it was cute, her conversation with Vickie. Did he ask you to go out or hang out? Are you getting dinner or coffee? And then like it was just this verbiage and like, what does this meeting look like? And I was like, oh, I remember, those conversations were important.
Yeah, still important. Yeah, you still try to suss out what's going on in situations for sure.
As this conversation is happening, they're like, are you going out or hanging out? They come into the apartment and Troy is moving in. He got fired from the newsstand for taking the Snickers bar and he's lost his job and he needs a place to crash. Some of the funny things that, make it of the time. Troy needs to get a new job and find a place. And Lelaina says, Vickie, that's the American dream of the 90s that could take years. And then we've said before, Lelaina says that Troy will turn this place into a den of slack. And then Vickie says, welcome to the maxi pad. Always a funny line.
Then we kind of transition into like what's sort of Lelaina's documentary footage. It's very seamless. You don't feel like you're being transitioned into a different movie. It just all kind of holds together. But this is clearly meant to be seen through Lelaina's camera. We see Troy's band, Hey, That's My Bike. And he's kind of just like grooving on his guitar kind of casually. So this is a cool thing though. In this sequence, he appears to be just like kind of making up an improvised song. He says, should I get married? Should I be good? Astound the girl next door with my velvet suit and Faustus hood? Don't take her to movies, but to cemeteries. Tell all about werewolf bathtubs and forked clarinets. And so that was actually from a poem, and Ben Stiller didn't realize it at the time when he used it for the movie. And Ethan Hawke told The Guardian later about this scene, and he said, in one scene, I recited a Gregory Corso poem, Marriage, while playing the guitar. When I saw the final cut, I said to Ben, hey man, that's a famous poem. We've got to buy the rights to that. A year later, I was in New York, and this old guy grabbed me by the face and kissed me. I'm Gregory Corso, he said. You are an angel. I was destitute, and out of nowhere, I got a check for $17,000.
Yep.
And I think that's so cool, that Ethan Hawke's kind of like a sophisticated improvisation ended up helping a poet to get by, right?
So great. So fantastic.
I'll put a link to that poem too in the show notes so you can look at it in its entirety. I think it also just like, it's a really great illustration of Troy's character. He's supposed to be kind of like this genius guy who knows all about arts and culture and philosophy, but just kind of won't graduate and won't go along with what is expected of him. So like, one thing that like people have said though about the movie, including Ethan Hawke himself, is that there is a lot of Ethan Hawke at that age in the Troy character. Like he kind of blended his look and his interests into the Troy character. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
I thought that was cool. And this poem is one example of that. After that, we also see some more like pseudo documentary footage. We see like Lelaina and Troy talking and kind of flirting with some brownies. Yeah. We see everybody getting stoned in the apartment. And that's where like Vickie says that line.
Don't bogart that can, man.
And then we also find out that they're celebrating because Vickie was promoted to be manager of the Gap, and she talks about how excited she is about that. And she's responsible for all these shirts.
I know.
And they ask Troy, like, aren't you excited? And he uses yet another ad line. I'm bursting with fruit flavor. Starburst, I believe. Okay, so yeah, they're all stoned and they get hungry. And their hunger, their stoned munchies, is what leads us to one of the iconic scenes in this movie, which is the gas station / convenience store scene. So they're at the gas station. Everyone's stoned. They're picking out their food. And one of the iconic things from this scene is that Vickie comes up to them with a bottled water, like an Evian, and she said, "Guys, like I just realized Evian is naive spelled backwards."
Yep.
That was a big thing in the 90s. People would quote that back.
Thing. Yep. Naive. Yeah.
The more iconic part of the scene, and I'm not overusing iconic here. This really is like one of the iconic scenes of the 1990s, is when My Sharona by the Knack comes on the gas station radio, and Vickie's like, "Turn it up, please turn it up." And the gas station guy kind of reluctantly turns it up. And then Vickie starts dancing. Sammy starts dancing. Lelaina starts dancing. Troy just sort of stands there. And the gas station guy looks at him like, "What is going on with your friends?" And I love Troy does this little tiny like Ethan Hawke does this like micro expression where he kind of like his lips go up as if to smile for just a moment, but you never see a smile. It's just this kind of sad, like sad, like acknowledgement that his friends exist and they're being weird and it's not his fault kind of thing, you know?
Right.
There's so much conveyed in that look.
Yeah.
Did you love this scene when it came out? I loved this scene when it came out.
Sure. Yeah. So much fun.
Yeah. Just the fun times you have when you're younger that don't necessarily make sense to adults, that are kind of ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. And I look at kids now, I'm like, okay. No one cares. No one wants to see your show. I'm like, surely I didn't do that. I totally did that. Did we note that in this scene, the reason that they're going to the gas station for munchies is because none of them have cash and they're hungry? And Lelaina goes, "Oh, wait a minute." And she holds up the gas card that her dad's paying for.
Yeah, we did not know, but that's an important note. Yes.
Important note. They pay for it with the credit card.
Yeah, her dad wasn't really thinking, about what you can really use a gas card for when he gave her the gas card.
Yep.
So, like, this is as good a place as any to talk about now fashion in the movie. I often will, like, try to find a dress that looks like Lelaina's floral print long dress from the graduation rooftop opening scene. So that's one of my fashion iconic things from this movie, those long floral print dresses. Like, is there anything in the movie that, like, you just love or that sticks out to you?
I love her little brown dress that she wears later. I think she's wearing it on interviews. And it's got a little belt, but it's very big on her. And I think she's wearing some kind of a loafer. Just cute. I could never wear that when I was younger. I don't know if I would wear it now. Even like that look doesn't look quite right on me. When I watch this, all I see is my sister, actually.
Really?
Yeah. I feel like, well, these people in this film were 4 years older than me, as my sister is. And I feel like when I was watching this, she was in her 20s and she was living this life of like this really funky, cool apartment, but in Madison, and like smoking her own Camels that she rolled, and like greasy, dark, short hair, and just like cute and petite. And like she looked like that Winona Ryder character.
Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
I think so.
Yeah, Winona Ryder looks so put together in this movie.
Dreamy.
Like whether
so
she's
pretty.
wearing just like a white button down and like kind of torn jeans, or like kind of like cool black cropped pants and loafers, like just all kinds of different looks, but they all kind of like go together as a piece.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so she's rocking that kind of like 90s, like casual, like not grunge, but like a little hip style.
Mm-hmm.
And then Vickie's got two things. She's got her work clothes, her Gap clothes, because she works at the Gap, which like are so recognizable. Like what the Gap used to have like very limited types of clothes they had. Now it's like much more different, styles, patterns, whatever.
Yeah.
But then it was like very denim, simple cuts, simple t-shirts. Yeah.
Khaki slacks. So,
Yeah.
Mhm.
But then she has her other style, her at-home style is like these 70s polyester dresses with the huge collars. Most of them are kind of short above the knee dresses with like wild prints. And she's got her platform wedge sandals. And she has her Charlie's Angels lunchbox, which she carries as a purse.
As a purse.
Now, I wanted to note this
Yes.
because my senior year of high school, I carried a Scooby-Doo lunchbox around like
Yes.
functionally as a purse. I
Yes.
took it to all my classes. I became kind of like notorious for having this. Like freshmen would like think it was cool. A lot of them actually. I think people in our grades and the other grades, maybe some of them thought it was dumb, but
No, I remember, and I loved it. It was great.
yeah, it was like a tin, like Vickie. It was like a metal, like a Scooby-Doo lunchbox with different patterns from Scooby-Doo, and I would keep all my school supplies and different stuff in there, like all kinds of weird stuff. But I had little fortunes taped in the lid and a little mirror by the end of it. But why I mention this is because I'm pretty sure I must have gotten the idea to do that from this movie.
Sure.
I must have.
Yes.
I don't think I just randomly started carrying it like that. I think I should start it again. I should bring it back.
That would be fun.
But like I don't have any 70s dresses, so I'll have to get on that. They probably cost like hundreds of dollars these days.
Like
back in the 90s, you could get them at like Goodwill for like $2.
Yes.
So
I remember. Yeah. Do you remember going to Kenosha because they had the good thrift stores? Did you?
Oh
ever
yeah, or Waukesha or
Yeah.
like wherever. Yeah, we would thrift all the time. So Vickie is really our thrift icon. She's definitely the one whose style like probably I relate to the most from that time period because I was always going, like you said, to the thrift store. Then we've got Troy's style. He's got Troy's and Ethan Hawke said that Troy, he was basically just dressing like himself with hair like his own hair. Okay.
That greasy,
So
greasy hair.
Yeah. A little bit shaggy, a little bit long, a little bit greasy. Yeah. And then white t-shirts with sometimes like 70s type era button down shirts over them and kind of plain jeans. I feel like there were several guys in my graduating class that dressed exactly like Troy.
I don't remember, but I'm sure.
Graham Watling.
Okay.
Graham Watling dressed exactly like Troy Dyer. I swear to God.
That's hilarious. I forgot all about that.
And then Sammy is wearing like Sammy, who's the gay character, is wearing like polo shirts. He's very put together, like nice jeans. He's looking preppy, kind of straight-laced, but he is in fact somebody who is living a lifestyle that is actually much more bold and daring than any of the other characters because of the times he's living in. Okay, so let's now talk about, we had the meet cute with Michael. Let's talk about the first date with Michael. So this is going to start to bring Michael and Troy into each other's universe because Michael comes over to pick up Lelaina and all the roommates and her friends are playing like a drinking game where they're naming episodes of the show Good Times, which by the way, I never watched. Good Times? Did you watch
I saw
that
some
one?
episodes. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
But they're playing this game where they have to like either name an episode of Good Times that nobody named before, like the one where blah, blah, blah did blah, blah, blah. Or they have to drink if they can't think of one. And like, that is very like, that is the kind of thing that you could experience back then because everyone watched the same TV shows. I'm wondering to what extent people could do that anymore. Like what TV show, like could anyone today play that game with?
Jiminy. And just the reruns, the reruns of those shows.
You used to watch reruns. Yeah, that's another part of why. Not only did you have like the same 3 networks, but reruns would be on every day too. And like you would watch these old episodes of TV shows that you maybe didn't even care about just because that was what was on and that was your only choice. I mean, maybe you could go to the video store, rent a movie, but other than that, you have these reruns, you have the video you rented, or you could just like not watch TV. Right.
Well, because why was I, and I remember this being young, like little, 9, 10, catching reruns of Good Times because those came out earlier, right? Early in the 80s, late 70s or something like that. So I was watching Three's Company.
I love Three's Company.
Oh, yeah. So great. I bought a t-shirt that says Regal Beagle on it, Santa Barbara, because I love it so much. So those were the things that we were watching on rerun, previously recorded years before as kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no reason a kid these days would be just like randomly watching like episodes of Seinfeld. I mean, maybe, I guess I heard that it's doing very well on Netflix now. So there are people watching Seinfeld again, but like you wouldn't be watching it.
No.
You wouldn't be forced to watch it. You could
Right.
watch Euphoria instead, or you could watch Bridgerton instead. You could watch whatever new thing was out.
Right.
You wouldn't have any reason to be watching this older thing.
No.
I was thinking though, Seinfeld is a show I could actually play this game with, and I would love to play this drinking game, even though I don't really like drinking.
Right.
But like, I would drink in order to play this game because it seems like a lot of fun. I would just have a hard time finding a group of people that would all have the same TV references. Like maybe Game of Thrones was popular enough recently that a lot of people would have familiarity with that.
Maybe people would do it with Friends, I think.
I couldn't, but yeah, a lot of people
couldn't,
could.
but
Sure.
people could,
Yeah. But today people, like, I don't know, man. I don't know, like, what the TV show is that everybody has watched, like, that has enough episodes, too. That's not just, like, some limited, like, Netflix series or something.
Wild.
Anyway, so, yeah, Michael comes into the middle of this drinking game, and he tries to fit in. He tries to, like, say an episode of the show, and then Troy's like, we've already done that one. Like, Troy's against this guy, like, right from the start, right?
Well, he comes in a suit. I mean, we talked about fashion, and Michael's wearing a suit the whole time. Well, except for the final scene. And it's like, oh, why would he really go on a date in a suit? Would he really, like...
I mean, yeah, guys in the 90s would go on a date in a suit if they were professionals, of course. Today even, too, I think.
Wild.
If they're going to a fancy restaurant or something.
I suppose. But he comes in a suit. And I like that Troy asks him if he's a collection agent.
Did collection agents come to your house then, though? Because
I don't know.
Anyway, so like this does not start out well with Troy and Michael kind of eyeing each other up. But the actual dates, like with Lelaina and Michael, actually goes pretty well. I think like Lelaina and Michael have really good chemistry in this date scene. And they seem like they're having a beautiful date. Like Michael is very complimentary to her, very open-hearted. He says, "You're very beautiful," and she blushes. When I first watched this movie, I don't think I wanted her and Michael to be like work out, and I was kind of against him.
Yeah.
Right away, I was kind of against him. I was like, I don't know if I knew that like they weren't the couple of the movie, or if I was having the same reaction to his suit and his whole car phone thing and his whole, yuppie thing. I probably was, because car phones seemed like a yuppie kind of sellout thing back then, right? Now everybody has a phone, so it's no big deal.
Yeah.
I watch it now and I'm like, this is a really good date. They're getting along.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Same for you? Or like,
yeah, sure. I think definitely going into it, when it first came out, it was like, what? What's she doing with this guy? Troy's so much better. But looking at it now, yeah, a lovely date.
So after they're having their nice date at the restaurant, they move on to like sitting in the back of, I guess, Michael's car. And they're just talking about various things. Both of them have got Big Gulps from like 7-Eleven, like branded stuff. Like 7-Eleven would not allow itself to be in Heathers, Winona Ryder's other movie. But now they're in a Winona Ryder movie. So that's
interesting.
Yeah. And she, apropos of nothing, I guess this was like something important to Helen Childress too. I guess she was living on Big Gulps as well.
Okay.
Lelaina picks up her Big Gulp and goes to Michael. The most profound, important adventure of my lifetime, the Big Gulp. Because see, now listen, you get one in the morning. I'm talking 44-ouncer, not this 32 wimpy. You get one. You have your essential vitamins and nutrients for the entire day. So I just like, this line stuck out to me this time. And I'm like, the most important invention of my lifetime. And I'm just like, what? Like, I would certainly not say that, but I just wanted to kind of like find out when it was actually invented.
Yeah.
And so I actually looked into the history of the Big Gulp. So like, really quickly, the Big Gulp was invented in 1976. They started developing it. Previously, they had only offered soda in 12 and 20-ounce cups at 7-Elevens. They sent these original 32-ounce cups to like one store in Orange County. And at the time, they thought they weren't really going to develop it. They thought, well, this is ridiculous. But they sent 500 cups to this store and they sold out in a week.
Wow.
So they're like, oh, okay, maybe we should do this. So they then branched out to test these 32-ounce cups to like additional test markets. And they continued to do very well. And so they officially, on the 7-Eleven website, they officially say that the Big Gulp started in 1980, but it had been developed earlier. But it started in 1980, and sales for fountain drinks doubled after the Big Gulp came in. for some reason, offering this bigger cup just made people want to buy more soda. Maybe it's the branding. Maybe people feel they're getting good value.
I guess I've not frequented enough 7-Elevens in my lifetime and had no idea what the Big Gulp was. And watching it this time, I'm like, why do they keep going on about the Big Gulp? Okay, so this is very good information for me. But it's like Coke? It's like soda?
You can have like a variety of drinks. I think you can have like other types of drinks in it, like tea or like orange drink. I might be wrong about that. I didn't look too in depth into that. It's different than a Slurpee though,
right?
As far as I know.
But it's like a sugar fountain drink.
Yeah, Lelaina importantly drinks Diet Coke.
Okay. Oh my God. This is... Which
means she's not getting any nutrients whatsoever.
Right.
Like,
I know. I'm like sitting here shocked. I'm like, she's got like all kinds. She's like pre-diabetic now. Like, what is going on? Oh my God.
I don't know if Diet Coke would give you diabetes. I think it would just give you like lots of water with weird chemical stuff in it.
Gross.
So, yeah.
Gross.
Yeah. But anyway, like nowadays the 7-Eleven website says that there's the 32-ounce Big Gulp from 1980. Then the 44-ounce, which is the one Lelaina gets, is technically called a Super Big Gulp, was originated in 1983. And then there was a 64-ounce Double Gulp, which came about in 1988. And I also saw briefly there was something called a Team Gulp, but I couldn't find evidence that it still exists, which is even bigger. Okay.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I assume from this that you have not had a Big Gulp ever.
I've never had a Big Gulp. You?
I think I have, but I haven't certainly never made it a habit. I think I probably had one like on some kind of road trip though. I have like a vague memory of maybe getting like a Big Gulp for like a cross country road trip, you know?
Okay.
And maybe sharing it with someone even.
Sure.
But yeah, I cannot conceive of drinking one of those every day.
No, my God. I can't remember the last time I even had any soda at all.
Oh yeah, I'm trying not to, but I relapse now and again.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, well, anyway, neither of us think that the Big Gulp was the most important invention of our lifetime. And for Sophia, it has been completely irrelevant. So, yeah. But Lelaina is subsisting on Diet Coke, Big Gulps, and cigarettes, apparently.
Jeez.
And occasional meals out with, like, executives from In Your Face. So there you go.
Nice.
So also on this date, Michael addresses his yuppiedom. And he says he's not materialistic. I love how he's continually in the movie, he's continually trying to distance himself from his money and his success. Like you see this in several scenes. Mm-hmm. And in this one, he's like, and I don't want to get a big house. I just want like a nice house. I'm not into cars and stuff. I mean, I like my car. Poor Michael.
I know.
We also see this like side of him though, that he's not like the cleverest guy. He's trying to explain to Lelaina how he's cool, and he's like, I'm not like that. I know why the cage bird sings and everything. Because he was in a cage and he was, I don't know, he had high hopes or something.
Jeez Louise. I'm like, it was painful listening to him. I'm like, oh my God. Stop talking.
Yeah, because he's got a sweetness about him at times, you know, like
he does have a sweetness about him, and I think his affection for Lelaina is genuine, but he just feels like he's overcompensating like he doesn't feel like he is at all comfortable in his personhood, you know, because he is trying to be. I know why the cage bird sings is like, oh, okay,
He's trying to pose as an intellectual when he's not really an intellectual. He's trying to like seem cool enough to date Lelaina, essentially, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, but I've got a clip of like their date now, which shows part of the sweet part of the date. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll play that.
I remember being so happy on the roof of our old house, just staring up at the stars. I want to do that again. I want to just look up at the stars and take the time to smell everything. Because it's like, do you ever have those moments in life where everything is okay? Do you know what I mean? Like just for like one moment, everything is great.
Not since I graduated. No, but yeah. When you like catch yourself in a moment and you're saying, wait, I'm happy here in the moment.
And then it just goes away really quickly.
I know.
I know I've had a couple of those. You know, I always forget them, but I know I've had them.
Oh, me too.
I can see the sunset.
Like right now.
Brown and gray.
Yeah, like now.
Yeah, the part where they stop talking, that's when they start kissing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a good kiss, I think.
Good kiss, and the fumbling with the big gulps is really funny.
Yeah, they're still holding these sodas, and they're like trying to figure out how they can make out while still holding the sodas. I'm like, just put it in the cup holder. Maybe they didn't have cup holders. I don't know.
What, that fancy car didn't have a cup holder? Come on.
I don't know. When did cup holders come in? I don't remember, but yeah.
Oh my God, good point. I don't know. Can you imagine a vehicle without a cup holder? Where would I put my bottled water, for God's sake, and my coffee?
Yeah, but I think it's a good kiss. Like, I'm like, when I watched this when I was a teenager, I'm like, don't kiss him. And now I'm like, yeah, this is hot. I'm like, I was like, even though he didn't understand like the literary reference, I'm like, I'll give him that. He said she was beautiful. He really listened to her and talk about her documentary. Mm-hmm. He talked about like catching yourself in a moment. I'm like, yeah, he's good enough. He's good. Do you agree with me? Do you think it's a good date now?
I don't know.
Go on a second date?
I appreciate it.
Pretend you didn't see the rest. Okay. Pretend you haven't seen the rest of the movie and pretend you're just seeing this date between them.
Just seeing this date. I think Michael.
Would you go on a second date?
I don't know. I think he's still trying too hard. Like, I'm not into him, to be honest.
Okay.
I think he's nice.
I would go on a second date.
I think he's sweet, but he's just trying too hard. And I don't think I could forgive that poor literary thing. I'd be like, yikes.
But to me, he seems like the kind of guy that, like, if especially in the early stages of a relationship, if you're like, you need to read this book, he would read it for you. That's what I feel like. I feel like he'd be the kind of guy who'd be like, oh, I want to learn and I want to like grow. And like, so if you gave him a bunch of your books, he might read them. He's not pretending that he like knows so much more than Lelaina. You know what I mean? Like, so I feel like, like he has potential, you know what I mean? Like,
okay.
And they seem to have chemistry and he's like sweet to her. And yeah, so I'm just kind of like, yeah, I would go on that second date. Now, what happens later in the movie, we'll have to talk about later. But like right now, the Michael that we see in the movie right there, I'm like, I'm with it.
Okay. I'm not into the suit. I'm not quite there. I'm not there. I appreciate things, but I'm not quite there.
Okay. Fair enough.
And then, we see them making out with their big gulps. Troy walks by and he sees them, and they obviously don't see him. They're busy. So, this is where, like, in the story thus far, what I've seen of Lelaina and Troy, what I've seen of Michael, this moment here, I'm like, oh no, Troy sees it. He's sad and jealous.
That's how I felt when I was younger. That's not how I feel now. So we get into the next scene. We've got jealous Troy, sad jealous Troy. Yeah. Lelaina comes home and he's singing "Baby, I Love Your Way" in a mocking way.
Yeah. I wouldn't say sad, more like asshole, like jealous asshole.
But he's really sad, though. He is sad. He is inside.
Like, inside, but he's being such a jerk. We're like, you're not a nice guy. Why are we rooting for you? I know why we root for him. Why? Way at the end.
But why are we rooting for him at the beginning? Because we were rooting for him at the beginning of this movie too when we watched it. Let's be clear. Like,
because
is it the bone structure? Like, I don't
know. Because he's with her at dinner with her parents. Because they have that fun scene that she's filming and they're talking and he's eating the brownies. And they're laughing and shoving brownies in each other's face. That's why.
I think it's because we all, like, a lot of us wanted the cool, aloof, genius guy, even if he wasn't very nice to us.
Fine. Maybe that too.
I think there was like a thing for that cool, aloof, genius guy in the 90s. And you're like, even if he was a little bit of like a jerk. Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah.
So Lelaina is like, whatever, because he's singing the song and being all mocky, whatever. And he's like, I just would have liked to have been there to watch you rationalize sleeping with a yuppie head cheese ball on your first date. And she's like, he's not a yuppie. And this is a great line. Troy goes, he's the reason why Cliff Notes were invented.
That is a great line. And I think fair for Michael too.
Yeah.
A fair critique of Michael on that, in that part. Did they actually sleep together even though, like, in that convertible outside somebody's house, like where anybody could see though? I kind of doubt it. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like, yeah, he still makes his point. Like, he thinks Michael's like, beneath her, not like a great guy, but he doesn't say he's beneath you. He just he doesn't admit that this is because he cares about Lelaina. He just makes it about how this guy sucks. And like, I can't believe you did that or whatever. Yeah. And she points out, why are you acting like a jealous boyfriend all of a sudden? And then, oh my God, this killed me. Like, when I first saw this movie, I can remember actually believing that he was really doing this when I first saw the movie. Troy walks up to her and takes Lelaina's face in his hands and he says, really seriously, I am really in love with you. And then for a moment, you're like, oh shit, he's already saying he's in love with her. It's the beginning of the movie. But then he bursts out laughing and says, is that what you want to hear? Is it? Well, don't flatter yourself. And Lelaina says, go to hell.
Yeah, that's the right thing to say.
And as a viewer, I'm taken on the journey with Lelaina because, like, I believe that this is happening at first. I'm like, oh my God, yes. So you're going to get together? And then it's like, no, oh my God, you just rejected her so hard.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay. If he hadn't laughed, what do you think she would have said? Do you think she'd have been like, finally? Or would she have been like, no? What do you, because she just like had this great date with this like guy that she seems interested in. I always wonder,
I think she would have gone for him because, okay, and this is not a spoiler because this isn't going to be in the spoiler section because there's a later scene where Ethan Hawke really does like come on to her. And for a moment, she does go with it.
Right.
But then she does say that she's with Michael.
Right.
But this is after he's done this thing to her. Right. Mm-hmm. Like this is a moment, you know what I mean? This is after he's faked her out. Right. Where he's been such a jerk to her. Mm-hmm. If he had like really like just bared his soul like right then and there.
Yeah.
I think she might have gone with him. I think she was teetering as it was later. Mm-hmm. But at the later point, she'd had a little more time to be with Michael and he'd done this jerky thing.
Right.
So we're now going to talk a little bit more about Vickie. Now that she's managing at the Gap, we find out that she's been really good at her job and sales have gone up. But she's got another pressing concern, which we already mentioned a little bit.
Yeah, she finds out that a friend tested positive for AIDS. And so this is one of the shots where it's Lelaina filming. And, we see it from that camcorder perspective. They're at the free clinic AIDS test. And Vickie says, the rite of passage of our generation. Was it? Is it?
I've probably had probably more. I've only had one AIDS test where I was like really kind of like worried, like where I almost always had like safe sex, but like there can be accidents even when you're having safe sex,
for sure.
So like even with a condom, it can break and so forth. So I had to take an AIDS test and just, hope for the best. Like I didn't have reason to think that the person, I'd been with had AIDS, but like it's still like it can be frightening, to go in for that test. So anyway, Vickie gets this test and then there's a later scene where we see her and Lelaina in a diner, which is a really cool diner. I couldn't find out what diner it was, unfortunately. But anyway, she's telling Lelaina how freaked out she is. And I want to read this part if it's okay with you. She says, you don't understand. Every day, all day, it's all that I think about, okay? Every time I sneeze, it's like I'm 4 sneezes away from the hospice. And it's like it's not even happening to me. It's like I'm watching it on some crappy show like Melrose Place or some shit, right? And I'm the new character, the HIV/AIDS character, and I live in the building and I teach everybody it's okay to be near me, it's okay to talk to me. And then I die. And there's everybody at my funeral wearing halter tops and chokers or some shit like that.
I really appreciate and like I love the way that Lelaina's like, we're going to get through this together, like everything. And I know that Vickie says it's not like everything before, and Lelaina's like, I know, but we're going to get through it. Like I love the friendship. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she says, and she makes sure Vickie knows she's not alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they're in it together. But then she says a really funny line.
Melrose Place is a really good show. And then and then they laugh.
I think it's like, even though I never watched Melrose Place, I kind of know what kind of show it was. So like the joke was still funny.
For sure. For sure. Total drama.
So eventually, Vickie does test negative for HIV AIDS, but like, you know, it was a pretty big concern. Like, even though AIDS was like more prevalent in the gay community in the 80s, from the 80s through the year 2000, the percentage of AIDS cases in women did increase. So according to the CDC, from 1993 to 1995, around the time of this movie, there were about 45,000 women with AIDS in the US, and it was about 17.6% of the total cases. So it's really important for women to be cognizant, you know, of their sexual health and to make sure they're having safe sex, like not just to prevent pregnancy, but also to prevent STDs as well. And yeah, that just remains relevant. And it's not just the US we have to think about too. Like, I know we have some global listeners. Hello to all our global listeners. And globally, HIV and AIDS is an even greater concern for women because worldwide, women and girls make up 53% of HIV cases, and out of a total of 37.7 million people living with AIDS today. So just like keep that in mind, make sure you're protecting your health as best as you can. And I know there's unfortunately many women, you know, globally are also raped or in positions where they're not able to protect their sexual health. And this is still something we need to work on as a global community today to help women have sexual health and safety.
Yes. Don't get me started.
Yeah.
I'll turn into a rage machine. I'm like, yeah. Anyway. So, moving on, we are going to talk about Lelaina getting fired and her job hunt journey. You know, she came to the host of the show that she works for, Good Morning Grant. She went to him with her tapes of her documentary and wanted to, you know, see if she could show it on the Good Morning Grant show. And he's like, no, it's garbage. It's depressing garbage. You know me, I'm light and sunny. And it's like, you're so mean. And then it seems to be some producer on the show he tries to go to bat for her and be like, this is really great stuff. And then she is standing outside the door and she can hear Grant saying he wants to get rid of her. And he says, having to look at that girl's pointy little face all day would make me ill. So she sabotages him and it's fantastic. She gives him his cue cards because apparently he doesn't do any of his own research. And she gives him the questions to ask. And on these cue cards, it implies that he's a pedophile, and his audience of old women are just in shock. And that is a fantastic shot of all of these older ladies with their, you know, jaws to the floor. So she gets fired.
So after this, Lelaina comes home and Vickie offers her a job at the Gap, and Lelaina sort of politely rejects it at first, but then all of a sudden comes out with, I'm not going to work at the Gap for Christ's sake, okay? And Vickie is understandably offended. But at the same time, I understand why Lelaina would want to work in her field too. So,
yes. I feel like when I was younger, I had these dream jobs. I had zero understanding of like living on my own and paying bills and stuff like that. It's like work is good, and wherever you can get it. So, I remember being idealist. This is what I think is interesting about this scene. First of all, Troy and Sammy are there too. Like, I just think that they're always there. Well, Troy is kind of living there, and Sammy's just always there too. So it's this whole, Lelaina even says we need to have a family meeting. And I love that. I love this little family unit. And as soon as the girls, like Vickie storms off and Lelaina follows, Troy is already standing up and like right behind them, because he's there he takes Lelaina's bag and puts it over his own shoulder, you know? Like, I just was like, oh, so he loves her. He's going to be there to like pick up the pieces of her sad day. And that's what they do. They go for a walk in this next scene.
Troy takes Lelaina on a walk, and it's supposed to be like a tour of places he was fired from. He eventually tells her he's fired from 12 jobs.
But what's coming up, maybe my most favorite line in the film, actually.
Oh, yeah. I like it too. I think it's the same one. So, yeah.
Well, you know, Troy believes in Lelaina's dreams, which I love as well. And he believes that she's going to succeed, but she's going to forget about him. And, you know, they're joking around and she's like, Troy, who? And he says, you see, Lainey, this is all we need. A couple of smokes, a cup of coffee, and a little bit of conversation. You and me and $5.
And she says, you got it. And then Troy takes this, I mean, it seems opportune in one sense, and it seems very inopportune in another sense. He takes this opportunity to kiss Lelaina. And it seemed like a pretty good kiss, but like, she was in more of like a you got it mood. You know what I mean?
Right.
She wasn't really like soft and romantic and melting, you know.
Right.
She was more of a best friends kind of vibe. And he kisses her, and it's this passionate kiss, but it's just not really the right time. She like is in it briefly, but then she pulls away quickly and like clearly conflicted. And Troy says, oh, well, I wanted to evolve. And she says, I can't evolve right now. And it turns out like that part of the reason at least is Michael.
Yeah.
But I've got to think too, that she's got in mind that thing where he was like, oh, I'm so in love with you. And then he took it back, because how could you not have that in mind?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Troy.
But
meanwhile, Lelaina is still with Michael, and we see them together. And he's saying that he wants to take her documentary tapes to In Your Face, to the network, to show them around, and says that her work is really fantastic.
So, you know, Lelaina's lost her job. Michael wants to take her tapes. And in the meantime, she is looking for a job. And the montage and the interviews are something else.
First, we see Andy Dick, who again was in the Ben Stiller show with Ben Stiller. And he's sitting in this room, like with all these videotapes. And like, I think there's like somebody like lifting weights in some video or something.
So the Andy Dick character says, I want you to make copies for me. Lots of copies. And he kind of sucks his teeth a little bit. And Lelaina's like, oh, is this like a pirating gig? And he goes, do I look like a pirate to you? Very funny. Very funny.
Yeah, it was a good cameo. Yeah. And then she gets rejected from a second job, which is a radio DJ job. But then she goes to a newspaper, and Ben Stiller's mom, Ann Mira, plays the woman who rejects her at this job. The woman is like very doubtful about Lelaina. Like, why do you suddenly want to switch to print journalism? Lelaina's making up a bunch of reasons why it would be a good place. Like, it's the guardian of our democracy and all this stuff. And then the woman looks at her and says, define irony. And just like most of us mortals, Lelaina's kind of stumbling over it and being like, irony, it's a noun. It's when something's ironic. And she's like, well, I can't define it, but I know it when I see it. And at this point, she's already in an elevator. And as the woman sadly shakes her head at her, the elevator starts going down.
Yeah.
But my quibble with this is, why would this be the qualification for working at a newspaper? I'm sorry, but like especially when you're like an entry-level position at a newspaper, you're not usually doing so much writing as you're doing like calling people up on the phone, fact checking, maybe doing some like copy editing, but like how often is irony coming up?
Yeah.
We find out the actual definition of irony later when Lelaina goes to commiserate with Troy about her job hunt. Troy immediately defines it. It's when the actual meaning is the complete opposite from the literal meaning. And I wouldn't have been able to spit that out. I'm sorry. Would you know that definition off the top of your head?
No, I'd be like, I recognize it when I see it. Just like Lelaina.
Yeah, and I double-checked the definition from I'm not going to go through all the definitions from the dictionary, but I did double-check, and like Troy's definition matches up with the actual definitions given, which there are actually several different types of irony, I guess. Dramatic irony, Socratic irony, but yeah, the basic one is what Troy said, basically. So So Troy does know the definition of irony, and Lelaina is suitably impressed, and she wants to talk to Troy about her job hunt woes, but Troy is not interested in talking to Lelaina right now after she has rejected him romantically. And I kind of get that, but it's also sad.
Yeah. I think it's perfect for his character. I think his character would embrace the rejection and like wallow in it for a while and maybe write a song with his, hey, that's my bike, that kind of thing. Like I think it's perfect for his personality, but part of me is like, he really timed it poorly and like, what were you thinking? What were you expecting? So she's with somebody else right now. Like, get over yourself. I don't know.
Okay, so Lelaina still needs a job though, but she tries to first borrow some money from her mom, and her mom recommends that she go work at some kind of fast food place, and eventually we do see her interviewing at a fast food place.
Lelaina interviews at this place called Wienerschnitzel, and David Spade is playing like the manager, and he takes his job very seriously. And he's like, "There's a reason I've been manager for 2 months." And which is,
I think it was 6 months actually.
6 months, okay. It was not a lot of time, but he thinks it's awesome. And he's telling her like, you got orders coming at you and you've got people in the front, people in the back. And as he's doing this and they're going around the kitchen, he has this great line where he goes to a guy who's just standing around, "You got time to lean, you got time to clean, buddy, all right?" And he hands him a broom, and it's like
I feel like I heard people saying that in jobs, in customer service jobs when I was working them in the 90s, and I don't know if like that was a saying that was in the air already or if it was from this movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What I find brilliant about this is that it captures two things about working in like fast food or customer service jobs. Like one side of it is that like it is actually a challenging job, and like I don't think Lelaine is prepared for that. And David Spade like throws these numbers at her and says, "Add them real fast," because you used to have to be able to do math in your head, right, to make change and stuff like that.
Sure.
And like she can't do it at all. And also like there's a lot going on in a fast food job or any of these kind of jobs. So it captures that side of it, that like, hey, these are real jobs. But the other side of it is like that people in these jobs like will sometimes take them way too seriously and have their like little like tin pot dictatorships like the David Spade character and just be like really hardcore. And that was such a true thing about working in the movie theater jobs or like the ice cream shop job I worked, things like that.
Sure.
Like, yeah, so this really resonated with me. Like, when I first saw the movie, I don't think I'd worked those jobs yet. But after I started working them, I'm like, oh, yes, I recognize this whole deal. Okay, so after being rejected by even the humble Wienerschnitzel, Lelaina has a bit of a breakdown, and she just retreats to the couch and starts watching TV 24/7, starting with watching In Your Face. But then inevitably she ends up watching advertisements for the Psychic Discovery Network with their 1-900 number. Like, I don't know, is this a thing that people know about anymore these days? Like that there used to be all these 1-900 numbers on TV that you could call and like talk to like a real psychic or like other ones like Love Ones where you talk to like interested singles allegedly, you know?
Right. I don't think so, because it's like that's gone. You don't do that anymore. You like have an app.
There are online psychics, I guess. Yeah.
I'm sure there are. It's a very time capsule piece, a moment in this film.
Yeah, so Lelaina ends up calling, though, this psychic hotline. Like, and what were they like? They were a ridiculous amount of money per minute. Yes. I can't remember what it was. Like, really expensive.
Yeah.
And she's on the phone with this psychic person, and invariably it goes from her being, informed about her problems to her trying to counsel the psychic herself about their problems.
You have to go to him and tell him how you feel. Yeah, I suppose you're right. Like on the other line, it's like, oh man.
Yeah, and she is found in this state, and Vickie presents Lelaina with a $400 and some phone bill from calling the psychic networks, upon which Lelaina quickly hangs up the phone.
And Vickie's line, all you do is lay around here in your pajamas and couch. I really like that as a verb. You just couch. And then her line, man, you are in the bell jar. That's pretty great.
Yep. From the Sylvia Plath book, The Bell Jar, just so people know the reference. Yeah. Lelaina now needs a solution to this like phone bill on top of not having a job. So she tries to now get money from her dad. And her dad says this line that really could be said now. Like, this is the type of thing people would say about millennials now or write articles about now. Says, I'll tell you the problem with your generation. You don't have any work ethic. And he points out also that Troy didn't take an interview at the plant that Lelaina had set up for him. And the dad tells her he's not going to help her right now. She should, quote, show some ingenuity. And
well, she does.
She sure does. So there's a whole montage now where Lelaina figures out that she can use her dad's gas card to pay for other people's gas. I think she starts with like Sammy. She starts with a friend. Yep. And then they give her cash in exchange. I'm assuming they'd probably give her like slightly less cash than what the gas cost, because otherwise I don't know how she's getting all these people to agree to put their gas on her card, you know? I don't know. When I watched this when I was younger, I was just purely on her team and I was like, go you. And now when I watch it, I'm kind of like, oh, like part of me feels like that is kind of shitty to do to your father. Like, how do you come down on it, like then and now?
Yeah, like this part speaks to her being taken care of and a little out of touch, because he's gonna find out eventually. Like, what is she gonna say to him? She knows she's gonna be bailed out and safe, you know? Mm-hmm. But all I could think was like, geez, Winona Ryder's so beautiful in this scene. She's got that red tank and this jeans and this beautiful red lips. And I'm like, dude, you're so hot.
So she's forgiven everything.
Yeah, sure, fine. I mean, yeah, of course it's a shitty thing to do to your dad.
I guess, like, I think it's very clever. It's a clever plot twist. Mm-hmm. It's hard, like, and I know that there are times when there aren't jobs, like, but like, honestly, like people who have college degrees usually have a much higher advantage in terms of getting jobs, especially young, attractive people with college degrees. Like, I feel like she could have gotten a job somewhere, probably. I mean, she could have just begged Vickie to be like, please forgive me and like, let me work at the Gap. So, which apparently in the original cut of the movie, you do see Lelaina taking a job with Vickie at the Gap. Yeah. And that's why she's wearing like Gap-like clothes in one of the ending scenes. Yeah.
So after she gets this money, she brings a shoebox full of cash to Vickie. It looks like she's paying bills. Sammy's there again. He doesn't live there, but he's there paying the bills too. And Vickie's like, that's great. Now rent's due. And, you know, Lelaina's distraught. And then in walks Troy with a girl. And he hasn't been home. He hasn't been there where he's supposed to be staying for like a week. And Lelaina and Troy get into it. She starts cutting into him like, who's this? And what have you been doing? And why won't, you go to your interviews? And he's like, oh, I didn't have daddy's little gas card. And, she gets pissed and they're just cutting into each other. And it's a symptom of what they're really not saying.
Yeah, I really like Troy's line here to Lelaina when he talks about why he's not going to the interview. Says, what is it you want from me? You want me to get a job on the line for the next 20 years until I'm granted leave with my gold-plated watch and my balls full of tumors because I surrendered the one thing that means shit to me? Well, honey, you can just exhale because it's not going to happen. Not in this lifetime. I think like the writer Helen Childress said that she thought that seemed really dramatic in retrospect, but I totally get, I think it's good. I think it like really gets like what it feels like to be asked to take a job that's so antithetical to what you believe in when you have a passion, and Troy's passion is his music. And when you're young and full of like idealism, like to be asked to like let that go, that's what that feels like. And he has a point too, because a lot of these jobs like are very damaging to people. I don't know if that's the source of his dad's cancer that his dad's dealing with, but but Troy has seen some shit. So Lelaina is like responding to his big, passionate outburst. And she says, well, if you're going to be in this band, you should work harder. She says, don't just stick around the same coffee house for 5 years. You better do it now and you better do it fast because the world doesn't owe you any favors. And I was like, damn, I need her to like yell at me about my screenplay sometime.
Yeah. Our friends who are comics, somewhere somebody got some advice and heard it's like the people that are famous comics that you know of, it's because they stuck with it for years. And that's the reason why you know them, because they did the stand-up, the open mics, and they toured and blah, 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 and did all the crap for a long time. And everybody else dropped out, you know?
Well, it's one piece of that, and it's one piece of luck, too, I think, because I think you do need a little bit of luck and or connections in addition to the hard work. But without the hard work, I think it can be very difficult unless you're born into a famous family or something.
100, yeah.
Sure. So, moving along, Lelaina is out with Vickie at a coffee house when she gets the news that her tapes have sold to In Your Face TV. Michael is calling her on a weird old cell phone from inside a phone booth, which they actually point out in the movie, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
We're caught in this funny intersection of like technology where you have both payphones and cell phones around at the same time. Man, I love growing up in the 90s. Yeah.
What I love is that Lelaina doesn't have a cell phone. He's called the cafe where they're at, and they page her, and then she takes the phone call. Do you remember having that done too? Like, yes.
I remember that is a thing that could happen, but it never happened to me. Yeah, and while they're on the phone, Michael bursts out, I love you to Lelaina without meaning to. And I thought that was really sweet too. Like, that gives me another point for Michael when I'm watching it now, But Lelaina does not, in fact, say, I love you back, but she says, you amaze me, because he said, you amaze me to her. So, any more about that?
Nope.
Okay. Oh, I love this scene. So this is one of my favorite little bits in the movie. There's not nearly enough Sammy in the movie, by the way.
I agree. Didn't notice it before. Now I'm like, geez, hey.
Yeah. Sammy / Steve Zahn is one of the best parts of the movie, but there's like so little of him. He does a lot with his part, like with his background reactions and everything too. But 100% if this were made today, Sammy would get a much bigger role. At the time that it came out, it was good to have like a gay character in the movie, period. But now it just seems kind of paltry in terms of what kind of, what he gets to do. But in this scene that I really like, Sammy and Vickie are doing a skit about Sammy's upcoming coming out to his mom. And he's talking about the organization PFLAG. And they're doing this for Lelaina's camera. And he goes up to Vickie and he goes, I am a homosexual. And then Vickie goes, oh Christ. In this Midwestern accent. Like, oh Christ.
Yep.
Is there a support group that I can join to help me come to terms with my own homophobia? We should have done this Every Rom Com theater, but I don't have all the lines.
That's okay.
And he says, yes, there is a group that is named PFLAG.
And she goes, PFLAG. I thought that was cute.
Yeah, I'm beginning to like the sound of that. I love this so much because Janine Garofalo's Midwestern mom accent is just fucking perfect.
Yep.
And it's very charming little interaction. And then we cut from this skit, this pre-reenactment, to Sammy sitting on the front lawn of his house and his mom's in the house behind him pacing back and forth. And he gives this whole speech about how he has been celibate because he hasn't been out. And so he's felt weird about dating. I want to be in there too. I want to feel miserable and happy and all of that. I mean, I want to be let back in the house. It's sad. I wanted to tell a little bit about PFLAG too, in terms of its history really quick. So I went to the PFLAG website because I was curious how long they'd been an organization. And apparently the idea started in 1972 when a person named Jean Manford marched with her son Morty in New York's Christopher Street Liberation Day March, the precursor to today's Pride Parade. And this is all a quote from the website. After many gay and lesbian people ran up to Jean during the parade and begged her to talk to their parents, she decided to begin a support group. And they had their first meeting of the group March 11th, 1973, in a Greenwich Village Methodist church. And then similar groups started forming all around the country. And in 1981, there was a national PFLAG organization formed. And throughout the 80s, they worked to counter Anita Bryant's anti-gay campaigns. And they also worked to prevent lesbians from being discharged from the military. And then in the 90s, they worked on protecting gay and lesbian students from harassment at school. And in 1998, added transgender people to their mission as well. And right now, there are more than 400 chapters in the United States. So PFLAG is still going strong. So I thought that was pretty cool.
That is very cool.
I think this movie is the first time I heard about PFLAG as an organization. And it was one of the first times I saw like kind of a coming out narrative in a mainstream film, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the first time I saw one in a mainstream film and not an indie film. How about yourself?
I don't remember at all.
But I remember being pretty touched by it personally.
Those things weren't quite on my radar when we were teenagers. Still liked Sammy.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, that was to the extent of my emotional investment at like
you were there
15.
for the love story.
Yes. The hetero love story. Yes.
I mean, Sammy's not really given a love story. I mean, he's given like a moment at one point, but like
right.
Such a you blink and you miss it moment. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we are now going to enter the spoiler section. So if you haven't seen Reality Bites, get yourself a copy of it, whether on streaming or from the library or what have you. Like, check out this movie and come back and join us again. Okay, so now we come to Lelaina and Michael are going to go to a party for her documentary. But before they go to the party for her documentary being sold to In Your Face, there is a showdown between Troy and Michael, and I'm going to play a clip of that we can then discuss.
Hi. What happened to your normal clothes?
Wow, Lelaina, look at you. Where'd you get that dress?
Oh, I don't know. I just bought it. But I think I'm going to go change.
No, don't. You look beautiful. You look like
A doily.
I'm going to change.
No, don't change.
And don't go thinking for yourself either, Lainey.
Hey, what is your glitch, huh?
My glitch?
You know what? We're already late.
No, wait. Hang on a second. Look, do you have like a problem with me or something? Because if you do, let's just get this out, all right? Seriously, is there like, I mean, have I like stepped over some line in the sands of coolness with you? Because
Come on.
No, excuse me if somebody doesn't know the secret handshake with you.
There's no secret handshake. There's an IQ prerequisite, but there's no secret handshake.
Come on.
This guy. You got like this whole like thing with the world, don't you?
This is really stupid,
that's
okay?
great. That's really wonderful. But guess what? I'm a human being. Okay, we're human beings, people. Okay, you know, we're not like intelligence, you know, quotations or whatever.
Just ignore him.
No.
Done.
Come on, let's go. You don't need this.
You don't know what she needs.
I think I know what she needs in a way that you never will.
It's a great scene. It's a funny scene. There's some great lines. Did I cross some line in the sands of coolness? Like, brilliant. Because that's exactly how Troy is acting.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's just too cool and being a real dick.
Yeah. I mean, there's part of me that finds Troy funny here. Like, there's an IQ prerequisite, but there's no secret handshake. Like, part of me is like, oh, you really got him on that one. But another part of me is like, no, that's horrible. Like, I think Troy's the kind of guy that if he's on your side, you feel like extra cool. You know, you feel like, oh, this cool guy has acknowledged me and like wants to hang out with me. But if he's not on your side, he would be like your nemesis. You would not be able to stand him. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So she's wearing a dress. Do you think she looks good, or do you think she looks, as Troy says, like a doily?
Like a doily. And I've never liked it. Yeah. I think it's completely unflattering.
That was a very kind of popular style, like that kind of white lace, kind of like pretty girl, like dress. But yes, she does kind of look like a doily. And like, I give points to Troy there because I want my friends or love interest to tell me the truth, right?
Yeah.
If I look silly. But at the same time, is Troy doing this out of the goodness of his heart, or is he just trying to rain on her parade? So, yeah.
Oh, right. I think rain on her parade. I think he totally hates Michael with Lelaina, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that kind of angle.
So what
do you think about that line? You don't know what she needs. I think I know what she needs in a way that you never will.
I think they're both right. And we're going to see
Yeah.
that play out. I mean, we're in the spoiler section, so we can talk about this. We're going to see that play out in this immediate next scene because Michael doesn't get certain things about Lelaina and her art, and he seems kind of incapable of getting them, at least initially. But at the same time, Troy isn't able to express himself well emotionally and connect with Lelaina emotionally in a way that is healthy. So they both have a piece of what she needs, and they both are missing something that she needs.
Perfectly said.
So we are now at the documentary series showing, and it is a disaster.
Oh, 100%. Well, it's called Reality Bites, which is funny.
Which is great.
Yeah. And it opens with some of the same footage as the movie does of the graduation scene.
Yeah.
But there's these lots of fast cuts. There's this silly little animation, really cheesy, really meant for gags and stuff like that. And it puts it all in perspective of relationships, the way they cut it, romantic relationships and who's getting with who. And that's absolutely not the point that Lelaina is trying to make. And as it's getting on and getting worse and worse, she's getting more and more exasperated.
Yeah, it takes all these, so the brilliance of this is that we've already seen all the longer versions of these edited chunks. We've seen Vickie tell us a longer story about her parents' marriage, and Troy tell us a longer story. And now it's giving us just a 1-sentence snippet of this and then make it into a joke instead, with some stock footage and some music to make it humorous or whatever. And it's not even funny, really. It's
No.
This is one of the brilliant things that Ben Stiller does. He's a very, this was probably in the script too, to be honest. So I'm not going to give him all the credit for this, but he's very good at observing the media environment in a lot of his movies and on the Ben Stiller show. He observes what media is doing, and he really got what reality TV was doing and what MTV was doing at the time, which is just making these fast, frivolous cuts, putting everything into these tiny bites of nothing. Lelaina gives her work over to these people, and it comes back mangled. Would that stuff even be retrievable in any way, or is it gone in that video editing era?
Oh, back in the day?
Yeah, it was video editing,
Right.
So I wonder. We don't know. We don't know if she's able to salvage her stuff or not.
Yeah. I don't know.
So I hope she can, but actually I think she can, because then Michael later proposes that they do her edit, so they must be able to salvage it.
Some backup.
You know what I'm
somewhere.
saying?
Right.
He comes over and he's he sees her in that scene, and he's like, let's go to New York and we're going to get it done our way and stuff like that. But in this moment, Lelaina is just telling him off, basically. She says, they cut up everything that meant anything to me. I mean, I don't even think you realize what you've done. You don't get it. You just don't get it. And this is the moment where Michael is not the one for her,
right,
because he doesn't really appear to get it in the moment. He's calls her, she compares her work to meatloaf and the audience to these kids, and we have to spoon feed the meatloaf to them, and here comes the plane. And it's clear that as much as he said he enjoys her work, he doesn't really understand its value or see that it would appeal to people, or he's more interested in justifying what happened to it than in understanding Lelaina's pain anyway.
Yeah,
but this is the moment where I'm okay, when you see the documentary, then I'm all the feeling that Lelaina should be with Michael kind of evaporates for me. I'm if he can watch this and not be disgusted by it also, he has a fundamentally different vision of the world, of art, of something that means so much to Lelaina, something that's her soul. Okay, so this is just really quickly, this scene is posited as Michael introduces the video as, we're entering a new phase here at the channel, real programming. And this movie, in fact, came out at the time that MTV was entering a new phase of real programming. This was the early days of reality TV with The Real World on MTV. And The Real World aired on MTV from 1992 to 2017. The creators of it said that it was inspired by the 1973 PBS documentary An American Family. But interestingly, apparently there was a eerily similar Dutch show called Nummer 28, which aired in 1991. and was like the first reality show to film strangers living together and to use a mix of real life events and like confessionals where people like talk to the camera about the events. So like I'm kind of inclined to believe that maybe somebody saw the Dutch show.
Yeah, I bet you they saw the show.
Well, the Dutch show was created by somebody named Eric Latour, just to like give him some credit there. But The Real World was created by Mary Ellis Bunham, I think is how you pronounce her name, and Jonathan Murray. And originally they were going to have it as a scripted show, but they changed to a reality program so they could have a cheaper budget. And the tagline is, "This is the true story of 7 strangers picked to live in a house, work together, and have their lives taped to find out what happens when people stop being polite and start getting real. The Real World." And just reading that, I remember watching it when I was younger. Do you think you watched like the first season or maybe the second or third? Or I think I didn't tap in until the second or third season.
Yeah, it wasn't until I was in college. When did it come out? 92? Yeah, I didn't have like cable at home.
Mm-hmm.
So it was until I was in college where I had multiple channels. And that's when I got to see reruns and.
So like 96 or something.
Yeah.
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 So the first season was in New York, and only 500 people applied. Can you imagine? Only 500 people applied. And they were paid $2,600 a person, and I'm assuming also room and board probably, but like yeah, $2,600 a person. The third season is one that became really famous. It was in San Francisco. It featured the story of Pedro Zamora, who was an activist living with AIDS, and he was a very inspirational figure at the time. And as of 1995, The Real World became MTV's highest rated show. So everyone, like old people like us, will talk about the days when MTV used to play music. Well, that was mostly before 1995 when MTV realized they could get a lot more viewers out of like making these reality programs. Reality TV and The Real World have been incredibly influential. Matthew Gilbert of the Boston Globe said, "The Real World led to the creation of an entire new genre, one that has changed the nature of privacy, fame, and TV. It is the show that spawned almost every reality TV convention we now take for granted, from the ever-present cameras and fourth-wall confessionals to the glitzy home design and the editing room shaping of quote-unquote storyline." Gilbert also pointed out the MTV show was a natural extension of the camcorder revolution of the 1980s, as young people grew up more accustomed to and desirous of being filmed. Of course, like now, that seems kind of quaint because now kids grow up with smartphones filming each other, putting themselves on TikTok. It's like, compared to a camcorder, I think like we're much more filmed and surveilled and like our images put out there now, you know?
Yeah. It's so wild.
I mean,
It's
like
so
you were
wild.
saying, your daughter's like practicing making YouTube videos in the house.
Yep. Wants to have a little vlog.
But reality TV, of course, The Real World then led to things like in the 2000s, shows like Big Brother, Survivor, American Idol were some of the most popular ones. And there's so many today, I can't even begin with them. You know what I mean? So what's your opinion of reality TV? Do you think it's has any positives? Do you have a generally positive or negative impression of it? Like, do you watch it and do you have any favorites?
I don't really watch it. I know of Big Brother, I know of Survivor, I know of American Idol. I think I would watch American Idol because you get to like see people sing and whatnot.
Yeah.
But like I suppose like following people on YouTube and like I don't know, there's this one dude who like, does like 30 days of no sugar, 30 days of being vegan and like just, him and his family like doing these things. Why is that entertaining? Like it's like, what is it, voyeurism and just like peering into other people's lives and being like, what do you do? What do you do?
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting, but also like, I don't know, turn it off and go do something on your own.
So you're kind of watching the next wave more. You're watching like people on YouTube making their own things that are kind of an offshoot of reality TV in a sense.
Yeah, probably more of that. That's more accessible to me.
I definitely have watched a lot of reality TV. Like, I watched it back when it was first coming out. I didn't watch Big Brother or Survivor. I did watch American Idol, but like, I've watched a lot of the dating shows because I'm a sucker for dating shows. I've watched pretty much all the Love Islands. I've watched the British Love Islands, the Australian Love Islands. I started watching a little of the American one. Honestly, I like the British and Australian ones better. Watched Terrace House on Netflix, which is a Japanese real world, basically. And which I like better than the American one also. And then there's like stuff that you wouldn't necessarily think of as reality TV, but it is like Victorian Farm and Edwardian Farm are these like historians going to like reenact living, like what it was like to live in Victorian times. And they're like really farming and really like putting together this farmhouse.
I love that. I think is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's also reality TV. It's using the conventions of reality TV to make people interested in like Victorian history, you know, or like, yeah, or they have a World War II farm too, and they show like what it was like to have these rations and these kind of deprivations during the war in Britain. And you learn so much, but they're feeding it to you. They're kind of feeding it to you like they're making your meatloaf a little more appetizing, I guess, but without the super quick cuts, you know?
Okay. See, I think that's like learning. That's informative. That's history. And you're like, oh wow, okay. I don't know, just like watching the Desperate Housewives like bitch at each other and like I don't the Kardashians. Never seen any of that. You know what? I don't.
But the Desperate Housewives, you're thinking of the Real Housewives. You're not thinking of the Desperate
Housewives. See, Desperate, Real. I don't know what they are. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, like, I like watching reality TV, but I think there's too much of it. And I think a lot of it is junk food. Yeah. I think the conventions can be used really cleverly, like they were with Victorian Farm. Or the Great British Baking Show is a great show. And that's a reality show, essentially a competition reality show. Those are shows where I've learned things, where I feel like this is enriching me in some way. But I think a lot of times it's just addictive and time wasting and kind of sad. It leaves you kind of feeling sad sometimes.
Yeah. So after Lelaina runs off from Michael and the disaster of her documentary, she's back at home in her apartment. She's sitting there just like depressed, and in walks Troy. And, you know, she's mourning her work, but Troy gets it where Michael didn't. So finally, we're getting to the moment we've all been waiting for. So I don't remember what Lelaina says to get where Troy's reaction, though, is to her, I love her. And he means Lelaina. She breaks my heart again and again, but I love her. And then they kiss and have this great, passionate love scene. Yeah. Do you want to add anything before?
Just like, yeah, I thought it was really good too. I think I was like rooting for them more when I was younger though. Like I still, I'm happy that they get together, but like, I don't know. I don't feel their chemistry as much as I did when I was younger, and I'm not sure why. I think part of it, and this is going to sound so silly, but I feel like Ethan Hawke's head is so much bigger than Winona Ryder's head. It became very distracting to me. I'm like, oh my God, I don't think this is compatible.
That's hilarious. But then the next day, I mean, they have this great scene, and it's like, I've been waiting for this forever, and, you know, it's been building up to this moment. And then the next morning, Troy is getting dressed. It's like 8 a.m. and she's like, hey, where are you going? And he's like, oh, I've got band practice. And she's like, right now? Yeah. And he's like, yeah. And she's like, so that's it? You know, obviously he's running out, and he's like, no, I'll. And then he kisses her, and he kind of freezes and then runs away. Oh,
yeah. Terrible. And she's like, and she has this whole history of him leaving these girls, like all these one night stands he's had with these girls. That's a whole history she has of him to go off of. So, you know, she doesn't have a lot of reason to trust him in a romantic situation, unfortunately.
Yep.
So after this, we see a scene where Lelaina goes to find Troy at this like coffee house or where he plays, and he's playing this is really Ethan Hawke singing, and he's singing this song, which I thought was kind of silly at the time and is even sillier now. It's like, got a pothead mama, got a cokehead dad. And it's like, I'm the ultra modern version, the American man. Don't feel good, don't feel bad. Hey, I'm nothing. And I'm just like, what a pathetic song.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No,
It's just it's so emo and overly dramatic and shit. I'm just like, no.
Yes, emo. Perfect.
Emo before emos, yeah.
Emo before emo, yeah.
Oh my God, that song. And this is like what it's like he's feeling sorry for himself, right? And like, that's not a good look when like Lelaina's coming there to like try to figure out what happened, right?
Yeah. And then Sammy and Vickie are both like, tell me it didn't happen. They're like, oh, you shouldn't have slept with your friend. And it's like, they're like disappointed. And they're like, what?
I didn't really like that. I think they should have been supportive of her personally.
I agree. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I thought they were rooting for that or whatever. I don't know.
Or like at least like understand that your friend might be upset, right? Like, you know, anyway. And then somehow like Michael also arrives on the scene before she's had a chance to talk to Troy, because Troy's been like pulled aside, I think by a phone call or something. Anyway, Troy does seem to want to talk to her. He does seem like he wants to talk to her, but like before he can get there, Michael gets to her. How does Michael even know she was there? I don't know. Michael somehow knew she was at a coffee shop too and called her before. What's he doing, man? He's like spying on her.
I know.
Anyway, he shows up and he has these tickets to New York City and he says like, we should go to New York and present your show the way you want it. And I say right here that Lelaina should have gone to New York with Michael, at least as on a professional way, to get that show done right. You know what I'm saying? Like whether or not you want to date him, you should at least try to like make your show. That's what I have to say.
Yeah. I could also see at that age wanting to be like just done with that, like cut that off. And I don't know.
Sure, at that age, when you think you're going to get like endless opportunities to make a break, I totally get it. But like, I don't know. I feel like with Michael on her side, she could have gotten something done. So I'm kind of sad she didn't try. But
here's something else. This is the coolest Michael has looked in the whole film.
Oh, yeah.
He's wearing like a leather jacket. He looks like a hip, cool young guy. Finally, not this like, I don't know, suit with all these suits, you know? I think you can go to a nice restaurant not in a suit, you know, on their first date.
You're really hung up on this suit, aren't you?
I really am. It's like, yeah, he could have come in like, I don't know, it's just like some cashmere sweater. Like there was another way to make him look like a professional, yuppie-ish person without being in a suit the whole time. In this moment, you know, he looks put together and like cool. I don't know. That would have, I think, helped his argument, helped his side. But Lainey's in a big predicament. Like, she's just slept with her best friend. It doesn't, like, did she really break it off with Michael?
I don't
like,
think she broke it off with Michael definitively, no. Yeah.
Right. So there was no definitive breakup, and she's already like, she's got that going on, and there's a lot going on. And
then Troy walks in and finds her talking to Michael and starts being snarky and being like, are you going to tell him or should I? Like, and like, so she pulls Troy off to the other side, and Troy is basically saying that he panicked, and he's like, he starts saying a lot of contradictory things. Like, he's like, I don't know if now's the right time for us. But then he's like, you're the only woman that I could ever commit myself to. And he also says, I don't want to lose you. And then he says, I've never had sex with somebody that I loved before. And that's a real mixed bag. But Lelaina chooses to seize on only the negative things. I'm the kind of person who would only seize on the positive things. I'd be like, oh, he loves me? You know what I mean?
Oh, wow.
I'd be like, oh, you could commit to me? You don't want to lose me? I would be that person. I grab onto everything positive he said, but she grabs onto every negative she can get out of that. Like,
I would totally do that. I'm the negative.
Oh, really? So you'd be like Lelaina, and you'd be like, oh, do I get a prize for being the only woman you could commit yourself to? Or like, she's also like, oh, it's a great thing to have sex with people you love. You can join the rest of us in the adult world. Right. Not me. I would not do that. I'd be like, you love me? You love me? No. This is great. Let's get together. Let's work this out.
That's really nice, Jen. Like, I kind of like that. Like, seeing the positive.
It does have a downside, though, because then you also find yourself gripping onto positives where there maybe aren't any. Like you like try to spin things in the best possible light, like maybe with guys that aren't really giving you anything to work with. So yeah, there's a dark side to that too. And I don't blame Lelaina for like reacting this way either, because like she was really hurt when he left, you know, he was, and she's seen his other behavior.
Yes. Yes.
And he
I like
leads
the way
with,
she says, I knew this was going to happen. I knew this was going to happen. Oh,
like she's hurting. He's confused.
right.
Ooh, it's a powder keg.
Do you know what the phone call is?
It's about his dad dying, I believe. Yeah.
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 So he's got that going on. I don't know how you take news like that without it affecting you. And
yeah, he's got a lot going on in his own life.
He's got a lot going on, and he doesn't handle it well.
No. So Lelaina like basically just leaves like Troy standing there, like having taken the worst message out of what he said. And then he goes up on stage and brilliantly decides that he's going to dedicate a very unromantic song to her. I mean, I think it's a kind of sexy song, but it's certainly, he does it very aggressively. He's not trying to like seduce her. He does add it up by the violent femmes, like, why can't I get just one kiss? Why can't I get just one screw? And then why can't I get just one fuck? Although the fuck is edited out in the movie. Troy. They're both shooting themselves in the foot here.
Yep.
So Lelaina runs away from both Troy and Michael, and Troy and Michael are then left out in the street to confront each other. And I don't remember all the lines they say to each other, but like Troy goes to Michael at one point, besides, everyone dies all by himself. And then Michael says, if you really believe that, who are you looking for out here? I like how Michael calls Troy on his shit, you know?
Yep.
He does this twice. He does it here, and he does it when he says, I think I know what she needs in a way that you never will. Both times you can see Ethan Hawke's acting that Troy is having a reaction to this, that he is like, that he is maybe learning something or seeing something because of Michael. And I like that.
Yeah, agreed. Because he comes off so high and mighty, and Troy comes off so high and mighty.
Yeah.
And like, I'm so smart and I quote shit. But when it comes down to like interpersonal relationships, he learns a thing or two from Michael. So it's a mixed bag. No one's one dimensional.
I think I'd want to date both of them. Now that the more I think about it, I'd want to date both of them. I'd want to have a polyamorous relationship with Michael and Troy. I would. I like things about Michael. Now watching this movie again, I'm like, I really respect Michael's like emotional availability, his communication ability, and his willingness to try to fix things. But I would also not want to not be with Troy, because I really respect his depth and his intellect and his talent. So I'm just like, yeah. Anyway, sorry, that was an aside.
No worries. And here comes one of the best songs ever in this montage. So now everybody's left run out of the club. Cut to this montage where U2 sings All I Want Is You. Troy is going home. Like, I don't know if we realize this, no, but he's flying home. You find out later to Chicago because his dad has died, and Lelaina doesn't know this. I thought his
dad is dying, not died. I thought he's dying. Like he's in the hospital. Like I think his dad is dying. Don't you think?
That makes sense because he's in the airport and then he's in a hospital. Yeah, and Lelaina is looking for Troy, and she's running around to all their hangouts and whatnot. And then at one point, Troy calls Lelaina, but then hangs up on her.
Yeah. Oh, back when you could do that, nobody would know it was you who called. Back before caller ID.
And then she goes to that coffee shop that we've seen before, where Sammy's sitting, and she interrupts whom he's with. We'll get to that in a second. Like, I need to find him. Do you know where Troy is? Please tell me. But Sammy introduces her to his friend Lance.
Yep.
Sammy has a lance.
Blink and you miss it, but yeah.
Yeah, very small, but you're like, oh, Sammy's out there. He's out there dating. Yeah.
Good for Sammy.
Good for Sammy.
I want to watch the sequel with Sammy, but it's a little too late for that, at least with Steve Zahn. And Steve Zahn would be a very important part of it, so.
Love you, Steve Zahn. Love you.
Okay, so after all this montage, Lelaina's found out where Troy is, and she's preparing to go and fly to him, to see him. while she's preparing for this, there's a cab that pulls up out front and she runs out. And we find out instead that it's not her cab. Troy has shown up. So I'm going to play a clip of what Troy has to say for himself.
Well, my dad died.
Oh, God, Troy, I'm sorry.
No,
I'm so sorry.
No, what happened was that, I kind of got this arcane glimpse at the universe. And the best thing that I can say about that is, I don't know. I have this planet of regret sitting on my shoulders. And you have no idea how much I wish that I could go back to that morning after we made love and do everything different. But I know that I can't, so I thought that I would come here and tell you something. And what I wanted to tell you was that I love you. And just wanted to make sure that that was clear so that there wasn't any confusion. So anyway, where are you going?
Just gonna look for you.
What for?
Just wanted to see if you were okay.
Well, I had a shitty week.
Aw. And they kiss again with Ethan Hawke's very big head and Winona Ryder's small head. Sorry.
Never been noticed or been distracted.
I'm sorry. I apologize in advance if this causes you to be distracted by it in the future, but
Nope, it won't. It won't
okay.
be. It won't be at all.
Yeah. That's a really touching ending. I think that speech is so good and heartfelt. And Ethan Hawke is such a good actor. He's so good at delivering it.
He is. He
Yeah.
really is.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I love the line where he just says, I have this planet of regret sitting on my shoulders. That's such a good line.
Good writing, Helen.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
So after this, we see Troy and Lelaina are in an apartment with boxes. It implies that they're moving out or moving in together, probably moving in together.
Mm-hmm.
Because we hear on the answering machine, there's Troy's giving a message. At the beep, please leave your name, number, and a brief justification for the ontological necessity of modern man's existential dilemma. We'll get back to you. Okay, I actually don't know what ontological means, so Troy probably won't respect me now, but there you go.
I appreciate that. If you don't know what it means, then I don't feel so badly knowing, like, you're really smart, so there you go.
Well, I should have looked it up,
words.
But there you go. I should have looked ontological up so I would know what it means. But anyway, Troy's answering machine message has gone over my head completely. So there you are.
I love it.
But on the machine is Lelaina's dad leaving a message asking about a $900 bill on my gas card. Oh,
that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money now.
Yes.
I don't imagine what that felt like in 94 or woo.
And they just laugh. I mean, I'm sure her dad was good for it with like the new fancy cars for his wife and everything, but still. Yeah, and then after that, we get another Ben Stiller type of a move. I feel like this must be his stuff, like his choice. Yes. You get a little clip of TV channels being changed. There's an Anthony Robbins inspirational ad. There's like one of those ads for that like spray that guys like spray in their hair to make it look like they have hair, but it's really just a colored thing. Yeah. And then it cuts to this like ripoff of Lelaina's documentary, which is like a scripted show instead. And I guess Evan Dando from the band The Lemonheads plays the character of Roy, who's a ripoff of Troy. Mm-hmm. And they're having this like, he and the fake Lelaina are having this like breakup conversation or something that's like clearly inspired by real life, right?
Yeah.
And it's so cheesy. And it really reminds me, like, they did this later in the movie Scream 2, where they did like a fake Scream movie with like Tori Spelling and like I think it was Luke Wilson, and like totally like I wonder if Scream got it from this in a way. I think maybe multiple people were doing these kind of satirical like riffs, but it's very similar in tone, like the way they did that one in Scream 2. So just want to say it, saw it in Reality Bites first.
Fantastic.
So we've come to the end of the film. So we're going to ask some difficult questions here. Now, maybe this one won't be so difficult, but if you had to choose now, like if you were Lelaina and you had to choose now, would you choose to date Troy or Michael or perhaps neither?
Now, neither. Because, as you described before, they each had qualities that were good and qualities that weren't so hot. Like where one was strong, the other was kind of weak, blah, blah, blah. I would wait for the whole package.
All right. And I would cobble together the package out of both of them. No.
Oh, yeah, you would be dating the both of them. So there you go.
But
I could be waiting forever.
But actually, like, I think if I had to choose, though, if somebody said you have to choose just one, I hate to say it, but I would have chosen Troy when I was younger, and I would still choose Troy now. I think it's a risky bet, but I really think, like, the soulfulness of Troy and the depth of his intellect and understanding of her art, that matters a lot, you know? Like it suggests that they share common values. And I'm just hoping that Troy could like mature in his communication skills, you know, and his ability to express his emotions. Since those are strong points that I have, I feel like I could convey them to Troy. But, you know, I might just end up getting my heart broken. You know, I think Michael's definitely the safe bet there. And now the other question, would you choose Troy from this movie or Jesse from Before Sunrise, Ethan Hawke's other Gen X heartthrob role?
Jesse. Because I think he has some of that like depth and heart and feeling, but not that douchey, dicky, assholey kind of behavior. So
yeah,
he's maybe Troy in a few years, maybe? No, I think Troy's always going to be like pretentious.
Maybe, maybe not. I think Troy is pretentious as a defense mechanism because he has a hard time letting people in and being vulnerable. So I think
Jesse's already that way. Perfect.
Yeah, I don't think. Okay, I would choose Troy, and I think Ethan Hawke is hotter in this role. There's just something compelling about Troy that I don't see in Jesse as much. Like Jesse is like smart, right? But Celine is smarter than him. And Troy seems like he would be intellectually, at least, my equal, or maybe even a little higher. Like, but I could contribute the emotions and the emotional intelligence. So I feel like it would be a real exchange, you know, like he could teach me different ideas and he has his artistry, but I could like, you know, help with the emotional side. I like that feeling if there's like an exchange, you know what I mean? With Jesse, I just feel like I would be kind of the mature one. And I think Celine is kind of the mature one with him, you know? Not always, but like, also we see how Jesse turns out when he's older.
We see how Jesse turns out. Yeah.
Which like, we don't want to talk too much about that because we don't want to spoil it. And it, like, there's some good things about how he turns out, but like, there's some things that I think are less than ideal too. And so I have hope for Troy.
But we're talking about Jesse Before Sunrise. And then Before Sunrise, I would go with him.
But I have hope for Troy. I have hope that like once he like gets over the insecurity and accepts like being loved and like deals with some of his family trauma, that he's going to be a real winner. I have hope for him. Maybe I just like helping people. I don't know. So like one more thing we cannot, you know, talk about this movie without talking about the soundtrack. This is one of the top soundtracks, I think, from any movie I've seen. Would you agree with that? Or
yeah, absolutely.
And the soundtrack ended up doing really well. It sold 1.2 million units, and it was number 13 on the Billboard 200. And we've talked about this person before. The music supervisor for the soundtrack was Karen Rachtman, and she also did the soundtrack for Clueless. So we mentioned her in our Clueless episode, and served as the music supervisor also for Pulp Fiction and Boogie Nights, and also the executive soundtrack producer for Moulin Rouge and Romeo and Juliet.
She's fantastic. Look at that.
Yeah, great. She does great work. So one of the big hits from the soundtrack was Lisa Loeb's Stay. And funny enough, that only got on the soundtrack because Lisa Loeb and Ethan Hawke knew each other, and Ethan Hawke recommended the song. And Ethan Hawke ended up directing the video for Stay as well. And Lisa Loeb became the first unsigned artist with a #1 single in history.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, that is so awesome. So I wanted to know, out of this great soundtrack, like so many cool songs, what would be like your top 3 songs from the soundtrack as of now?
As of now, still All I Want Is You by U2.
Yeah.
Stay, and I love Spin the Bottle with Juliana Hatfield 3. And honorable mention to Tempted by Squeeze. So 4.
Me too with Spin the Bottle. Spin the Bottle is like the one I love the best, and you almost don't hear it in the movie. It's like in a little scene where like Vickie's folding shirts at the Gap, I think. And it's just such a cool song, like ooh, ooh.
Yep. Bunch of movies, really stupid. I've been singing this around the house, and my family's like, "What?"
I wish you could come over to my house and sing in my house. I would love it.
Thanks, I
welcome
appreciate that. I've got my girlfriends to sing with. It's true.
Good.
Many a friend to jam out with. So.
Good. Yeah, I love the Juliana Hatfield song too. I think that's so good. I love Tempted by Squeeze. I think it's like the scene where they're singing in the car. Like that's what I want to sing in the car. It's exactly the kind of song I want to sing in a car. So yeah. And then my number 3 used to be like My Sharona by the Knack, but I think that has just been like way overplayed since that movie came out, and I don't care about it that much anymore. So now I think I didn't like the All I Want Is You by U2 when the movie came out. I was not a big U2 person, but now it really has stuck in my head, and I really see the value in that song. I don't know what it is about me that has changed that made me like that song now, but it gets me now.
It's got emotion.
Yeah,
there's a build up.
And I also like the When You Come Back to Me song by World Party that's kind of playing over the opening montage where they're getting ready in the morning. But there's not really a loser on this soundtrack either, except maybe the weird I'm Nothing song. I don't have much use for that one. How about you? Do you like Ethan Hawke's vocal stylings there?
No, but I mean, I know the words though.
Yeah,
I can sing along. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, even the worst song on the soundtrack, we know the words. So there you go. And before we go into our double feature recommendations, I just wanted to say that like I feel like this movie, like the issues in it, the experiences in it are very kind of timeless. And I think younger people today would still relate to a lot of it. Somebody writing in Vice, Ann T. Donahue said, "These characters are flawed. They're forced to live up to unrealistic economic expectations, and they mirror our current professional landscape where the jobs our parents have don't necessarily exist anymore." And yeah, there's so much about the economic situation, the gap with their parents of understanding that I think younger people could relate to, even though these characters are still using payphones, and calling psychic hotlines. But there's parallel experiences that I think are relatable.
Yeah. So why don't we do our double features? I'm excited to hear what you recommend, Jen. Why don't you go first?
Okay, so my first double feature recommendation is Slacker from 1990. And I think because when I'm thinking about definitive Gen X movies, I'm thinking about Reality Bites and I'm thinking about Slacker. And Slacker to me is like sort of the indie experimental version of a Reality Bites, showing the generation in action. It's also set in Texas, whereas Reality Bites is in Houston, Slacker is in Austin. Of course, directed by Richard Linklater. And I just think they'd be a good pairing for that reason. The indie with the commercial, which is so funny because Reality Bites is commenting on, art versus commerce. And Reality Bites is the commerce and Slacker is kind of the art. So and also the other reason is like Slacker is purporting to be like kind of like a slice of reality, like these little snippets of people's lives in real time. Of course, it's fictional, but it plays out as if it's following real people around Austin, Texas. So we've already talked about how you and Zoe, neither of you have been able to sit through Slacker, but I rewatched it recently and still find it very enjoyable. So my second recommendation is Before Sunrise, which came out in 1995. It's interesting because to me, it feels like it's an earlier 90s film. But then I found out that Ethan Hawke had actually done Reality Bites first, and then he went on to be in Before Sunrise with Richard Linklater. So 2 Richard Linklater films here, but this one with Ethan Hawke. And I just think that these characters are very similar, but like as we mentioned, importantly different enough that we have very strong opinions about which one we would rather date. So, but this is, Ethan Hawke's other Gen X heartthrob role, playing Jesse in Before Sunrise. And it's just an essential viewing, I think. And not even just as a 90s film, but just as a film about relationships and love. And of course, we've covered that on the podcast. So if you're curious to hear a little more about it, please do listen to that episode. And my next recommendation is Dead Poets Society from 1989. And this is another Ethan Hawke performance. And this is more of an ensemble film. Ethan Hawke isn't really like the lead actor, but he's a member of the lead ensemble. He's playing such a different character in this, but I think he's playing such an interesting and sensitive character. And also just like, even though Dead Poets Society is an 80s movie that's set like in an earlier time, it does give me kind of a feeling of Gen X at the same time, of rebellion and of trying to be true to yourself. And I think it makes a good match with Reality Bites. And then finally, I just wanted to recommend another Winona Ryder movie, which I didn't recommend in the Heathers episode. I want to recommend her role as Jo in Little Women from 1994. So the reason I want to recommend these performances together is because in both movies, Lelaina is an artist who's trying to stay true to her art and also dealing with romance. So yeah, they're set in completely different eras, obviously. Little Women is like a period film, an adaptation of that novel. Great movie to watch around Christmas. But I think Winona Ryder's performances are both very like inspiring performances of a woman artist, trying to find her way. So two different interpretations. Yeah.
I love that version. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For me, it's the version of my heart. Like the new one is good, but like Little Women 1994, that's when I feel the feelings. That's when I cry the tears and laugh the laughter the most.
Yeah. So, if you're interested to see where these iconic Gen X actors turn up, I recommend Juliet Naked from 2018, and that stars Ethan Hawke. It takes place in a small town in, I think, Ireland. The Rose character is with this fellow who's obsessed with this musician named Tucker Crowe, played by Ethan Hawke. I mean, like obsessed. He has a podcast about this band and this musician and yada, yada. And the woman character just is sick of it and can't stand it. And through a series of events, she actually meets this real musician. Her boyfriend finds out, and it's an interesting, cute love story. Not cute, but like a love story that I enjoy. And if I were to say it could maybe watch it and tell me what you think, it could be what Troy grows up to be. Okay, so got a touch of that in there. My next one stars Winona Ryder and Keanu Reeves, which is a fun pairing in the film Destination Wedding from 2018. And they play people who meet on a small charter plane to a destination wedding. They are guests at this wedding. It's just fantastic. It's the two of them. They're the only people with dialogue, and how their meeting as strangers evolves into something else. I loved it. And my other recommendation is from 1996. Not recent or anything, but it's Steve Zahn is in it. It's in That Thing You Do, which I love. This is one of our favorites in my house. Written and directed by Tom Hanks, about a band in the 60s and like how they make it. And Steve Zahn's character in it, he is hilarious. He's so funny. We quote this film a lot, and a lot of them are his lines. So highly recommend. Have you seen it?
It's a fun movie. Yeah, I've seen it numerous times. Yeah, I used to have the soundtrack to that. Yeah,
got the soundtrack. I love it. There you have it, friends.
So thanks for listening, everybody, and thanks for coming on again, Soph, and joining me on this Gen X journey.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
And stay tuned. In the coming weeks, we're going to be doing the 1994 independent lesbian rom-com, Go Fish, followed by 1997's Chasing Amy. And you will learn, if you listen to both shows, you will learn of a surprising connection between these two movies, which at first seem somewhat dissimilar. And it is not just because they both have lesbian characters. There is more to the connection. So stay tuned for that. And you can always find the podcast at everyromcom.com. And please, if you have any feedback, send us feedback at everyromcom.com. And once again, everyone, thanks for listening. Goodbye.
Bye.